Okay, y'all, I have to stop this. I have to stop the recording for a second because I am like a full 15 seconds behind the audio. I can tell because you guys don't actually respond until I see my meter moving, but I've been speaking for like a full 5 seconds ahead of this, and I've made it work though this far. I can't do it anymore. So
Okay.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to stop the recording, and then I'm going to close it up, and everyone rejoin, and hopefully it fixes this shit because this is infuriating.
Yeah.
No.
In the first aeon, I was the Great Spirit. In the second aeon, men knew me as the Horned God, Pangenitor, Panphage. In the third aeon, I was the Dark One, the Devil. In the fourth aeon, men knew me not, for I am the Hidden One. In the fifth aeon, I appeared before you as Baphomet, the god before all gods who shall endure to the end of the earth. In this new aeon, I appear to you as CMN.
Imagine that there is a brilliant white light just above.
Is commentary on the magic art.
In the years of the primal force, in the dawn of terrestrial birth.
Oh, that was very educational.
Now magic will take place. Don't be fooled by what I just said.
Welcome, everyone. I am Selective Memory Kennedy, and this is Chaos Magick News, the only podcast that's not going to talk about that thing you think we're going to talk about. Joining me, as always, is my co-host. How you doing? I'm afraid to say it. How are you doing? I'm great. I'm great. Also joining us is the usual crew of our dear CMN contributors. We got Local. Hey, Local, how you doing, bud?
Howdy, I'm doing just dandy, y'all.
You didn't just say... Let me just start over. Yeah. No, go ahead.
What am I supposed to say?
You didn't say anything wrong.
I honestly thought, hey, y'all was your catchphrase at this point.
Look, I'm trying to switch it up.
You're okay.
I can't be stagnant. I can't be stagnant,
okay.
y'all.
You gotta let this bird fly, baby. You know, you gotta get these
the
wings
y'all's
out
got to be there.
Sometimes you got to take action to just stir up the climate, you know? Just got to take a single dramatic
You
action.
need to test the waters.
Yeah.
See what burns. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to take a single dramatic action. We are off to a terrible fucking start already. God damn. I know. This is a travesty, but it's the world's in a bit of disarray. No opening discussion this week, huh? Yeah, no opening discussion. We actually don't really have anything good to talk about. The
Things
world
are
is so frayed at the edges right now. We're gonna try to give you all a very laugh-heavy episode is what we're gonna do. There's enough things to be upset and sad about, both in the news and in your personal lives, I'm sure. I know our listener base. So we're just gonna give you some jokes, give you some giggles, some hee-haws, and what better way to start the hee-haws off than with one of our favorite segments. This is Banish with laughter.
Hell yeah, brother.
Every time I do that bit, it's just horrifying, isn't it? I think that's what you guys keep telling me.
No, I thought you were having a fit.
Could you imagine if this was on someone's late night playlist and then it's just I don't know where this Joker laugh?
That's a good question. Time to fall asleep to the new CMN episode.
Yeah, that's some new sounds of Chaos Magick News.
I'm gonna catch you.
You'll never find me.
Oh man, we still haven't gotten to the "you'll never find me" guy.
That's a little spoiler for
later. Yeah, what we need to offer viewers right now, because we know we're not your only choice of occult podcast, even though we are the objectively best occult podcast on the net today because we trademarked it. But we do want to show you what your other options are. So we're going to take a little glance at another esoteric podcast. Now, this is an older video, but when you see the stunning content that is available at your fingertips, it might make you second guess your choice to listen to us. Do we want to go ahead and roll the clip? This video is 18 minutes long. She does that for about 4 solid minutes. I shit you not.
That's wild. And
then goes into a guided meditation.
I felt kind of relaxed. I felt pretty jazzy.
Does it work?
I don't know what it's trying to do. There's no introduction. There's no explanation for what it is. It's jumping into somebody's Italian lesson immediately. And then it's like, all right, now it's time for the guided meditation. What it is that it's this funny thing that happens with algorithms where if you look at a little bit of esoteric stuff or a little bit of new agey stuff, a little, the spooky woo-woo that is available online, you will get fed garbage like this.
There's a lot of stuff out there.
It's just what happens where it's like, listen to one Manly P. Hall lecture and then all of a sudden your feed is filled with like, oh yes, you need the Sound Healing's Higher Life meditation. That's what you need.
47.2K resolution, 24-hour stream, no lights.
I don't know. This gave us a real tickle just because of how off the wall it is, and it's that type of thing that we didn't go looking for this. It just popped up, and Kennedy was like, "You guys got to find it. Look. It's somebody trying to break glossolalia." The thing that gets me about it is that like co-host is completely right. Like not only is there like no context or introduction to this, there's not even like a description for the video. There's just a title. It just says sound healing / light language / and higher self meditation / aha mana.
How old is it?
I mean, what more do you need than that? Like, if you're a good magician, you can just read that and then go into the video and get something out of it.
Where was this video recorded?
In what is clearly her apartment.
It's like the Kabbalah. It's simple, but if you know what you're looking for, if you go into it with preconceived notions,
then
the words of wisdom
then her chanting will heal you.
If you convince yourself that this is actually something.
Exactly.
If you just tell yourself it's real.
I paid $20 for this. Except it's not $20 because it's on YouTube, right? Like,
no, not even close. You paid nothing for this. The YouTube channel it's a woman named Sarah Asha Rose. Do you guys want to hear the description of her channel? Because she did manage to write that in there.
Is she a multi-talented artist? Is she like a hip-hop painter?
Are we dunking on like a much smaller channel? I don't know how you get smaller than us. Right, yeah. Like if you're smaller than Chaos Magic News, you have fucked up. And she's trying way harder. Here's the description. You already have the wisdom you're seeking.
Oh, yeah.
Let's awaken it. Get my free Activating the Wisdom Within series. 5 guided meditations plus light code activations to reconnect with your soul's guidance. Finger gun.
I love it.
Oh, they have like they got like 4K.
Okay, I'm going to steal the word light code activated because that is a cool phrase.
It sounds like something out of like a one of those weird JRPGs.
I'm light activated. I got it on my orb tree. It's on my skill tree. So
right, yeah, I got the light code activated.
All right, liked and followed.
Oh, their videos seem to do about as well as ours, but they've got like 20, 30 times the subscribers. So good for them. And they've been doing it for like 6 years.
So we are punching up.
Barely.
Yeah.
We're like punching to the side.
This is a lateral punch, also known as a right hook.
I think a lateral punch is actually like, it's got like persimmons and then like just rum, I think. I know
There's no punch aspect of it. It's just persimmons and rum.
Do you guys want to hear her description of herself?
Yeah.
I'm Sarah Asha Rose. therapist, spiritual guide, speaker, and channel helping leaders, light workers, and visionaries release fear, clear energetic blocks, and lead from their authentic soul essence. Through mentorship, courses, and channel transmissions, I help you fully step into the purpose you came here to embody. Well, who could say no to a pitch like that?
That's good. That sounds nice.
It's like corporate speak.
It is. It's super professional.
Do we have something that is more authentic to like the podcast they're doing now? Like, because don't get me wrong, doing the phenomena for 18 minutes is pretty cool. But like, what are they doing now?
Dun, dun, da, da, da.
Phenomena. Do, 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 do.
Yeah, it clears your that clears your chakras. You know, it opens all your
Clears
channels.
your chakras. That gets it out of you. That pushes the zones.
Do we want how to surrender to the unraveling and why it's sacred? Or do you want how to call in more by doing less? Stillness as a spiritual strategy.
I would like to do less, please.
Less.
Anything that lets me not put effort into stuff.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to do less.
And we live in a world that glorifies doing or being. Hustle, hustle, hustle. Do, have. Chase, chase. The constant forward motion. And we're told, right, that if we don't strive, if we don't do, we're falling behind. If we surrender, we're giving up. And that to receive, we have to prove ourselves first. So let's talk about this for a moment, because I know how hard it is to be still. How do we maintain stillness in a world of distraction, especially when fear creeps in, when you want to know how and your mind races to solve life's problems? Welcome to Divinely Human, a podcast
they got an
for
intro
star
now.
seeds, light workers, and those seeking to remember the truth of who they are. I'm your host, Sarah Asha Rose, therapist, channel, and guide for those awakening their divine path. Here, your humanity is sacred, your voice is welcome, and your remembering begins. Let's dive in. What if the most powerful thing you could do right now is be still? In this episode, I share a potent message that I've received in meditation, one that completely shifted how I understand timing, trust, and magnetism.
Insert ICP joke here.
Fucking magnets. How do they work?
Yeah.
You beat me to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How do they
yeah.
in fact work? Yeah.
Okay, this can be kind of an opening discussion because as coyotes, right? As like chaos magic people who are all about like get, do the thing, practical application, what moves the needle. We all kind of look down our nose just a little bit at all of the starseed light worker type people. I think it's very trendy to be like the basher of those folks because a lot of them are hucksters and a lot of them are, the phrase spiritual bypassing, I think came up as a response to those types of people.
What does that mean?
Spiritual bypassing. That's the idea of trying to use your sort of esoteric spiritual knowledge as a way of not actually making tangible changes in your life or making like real analysis of your behavior. It's the idea that you can use the spiritual gobbledygook to sidestep whatever your problem is.
Oh,
everything
like
becomes
using it like a leverage or a hack as opposed to like a lifestyle and choice and purposeful
not even a hack
change.
because that would imply that you're getting somewhere.
Yeah, also like your own emotional issues and psychology and all that shit. It's
Right.
basically being like, I'm a spiritual person, so I don't actually have to address anything that's wrong with me.
Those things that happened when I was 12 don't matter.
Yeah,
I'm
and it's not
magic.
just like
Yeah.
spooky woo-woo types. You can also do it if you're like a Christian and shit.
Right. It could be in any kind of like societal collective thing.
I think the coyote version of spiritual bypassing is almost the opposite, where it's like you tend to take it out on yourself, where you just go like, well, I just need to get good. Like if I was better at this, I would, I wouldn't have these problems or
Do you
something
think
like
that's
that.
what spawns like extremists in different religions and sects and stuff?
Maybe in a way, in the idea of
That's
like
a complicated fucking question.
Yeah, well, sometimes the people that are the most adamant about their particular religious beliefs are doing it to cover up things that they really can't stand about themselves. So maybe you're onto something.
Like
But
having
I
like
think-
a self-defeating kind of like that. Oh, but in the magic sense, I get now. I'm sorry.
Well, I think a lot of times with like the spiritual bypassing light worker type people, the criticism goes into like, well, you're not really doing anything. You're living the exact same kind of life that you were, but now you just have like, it's like when dudes go to therapy and then like now they have all of the therapy words to keep doing the same shitty stuff, but like trying to twist it and use it as like a cover.
Oh yeah. Manipulating like scumbaggy shit. Yeah.
Dudes go to therapy?
Not real ones, just long enough to get fancy words. Yeah.
I go to therapy all the time.
Like it's easy to punch down at these types of people, and a lot of them are like we said, they are hucksters. They are people that you can view as not authentically doing the work. But I think at least CMN has that critique of most occultists. So we're not singling
Here's
any one
the thing,
person out.
right? And this is something that I think chaos magicians have to kind of deal with in a very particular way, because it's not something that it's not a problem on an individual level so much as it is like being a coyote among other coyotes. It's like being a coyote is not really a spiritual thing. Like it can be, and most of us have some semblance of spirituality within our practice, but like at its bare bones, like being a coyote is about like doing magic in a tangible kind of practical way.
Get stuff.
Yeah, it's getting stuff, it's doing stuff, and you can even be doing stuff that you think is like overtly spiritual, I suppose, but it's kind of not it's not the same. You know, we've said it before, like being a coyote is not like being a Thelemite, because at least if you're a Thelemite, you have to have some sort of like overarching, theological is not quite the right word, but you have some sort of like overarching spiritual, metaphysical ideas that really don't have a place in chaos magic.
Like a framework that you don't really have in chaos
Yeah, and there's
magic.
goals.
Right.
So if you're a Thelemite, your entire goal is, all right, I have to get knowledge and conversation of my holy guardian angel, and that way I can get further up. You know, I can't really do anything until I get there, you know, so I can start trying to bring my true will into fruition, blah, blah, blah. Coyotes don't even have that. Coyotes often like will look at it like, man, I want to have like a kooky spiritual experience. How much messing with my head and all this various practices, what do I have to do to get to that experience?
Right. And then we tend to have like secular-esque ways of talking about it and dealing with it amongst other people. It's the textbook of like, your mileage may vary. My personal gnosis is not
My
your
path is not yours that I walk.
I mean, basically, yeah.
Yeah, but okay, what if, Pitch, I force my values on other people?
Do you think that would work?
I mean,
If they don't like intermingle, if they don't absorb my ideals, they know the repercussions.
this is not a bit I should do with my accent, is it?
But on the other hand, right? You listen to this. It's like, even if Lady Sarah earnestly believes the things that she's saying and the work that she's doing, Godspeed. There is this sort of vibe that hits people with our sensibilities where we hear this and it's like, this is gobbledygook. This is like corpo speak with like spiritual stuff pasted over it. This is hippy dippy. This is, whatever words you want to throw onto it. There's something about it that it just makes you go like, it's a little cringe in it.
It's a little cringe.
Okay.
We're all a little cringe sometimes.
I have been very guilty of this in my life.
being
But when
cringe?
someone when someone pops up and starts being like, hey, this is baby's first woo-woo, I'm like, LMFAO, unsubscribe. Like, when really, like, I was in their exact position at some point. Like,
Okay, but counterpoint, right? Like here, talking about stillness, and it's like, oh yeah, we're all so obsessed with doing and going on and stuff like that. We need to refine to that stillness, because that stillness is the place from which things can come to you, and it is through the act of surrender
that you are able to make space for all the things that are coming in. It's about trusting the universe. And you hear this and your eyes glaze over a little bit. But if I talk about Tao, then it's like, we act without doing and everything gets done.
Hey, guess what? Meditate.
I'm not saying that those are exactly the same thing, but there's 3 lines of logic that you can follow and understand. It's like, these are trying to drive at the same idea. It's just what pastiche is going to be acceptable to you. Fair, but like, I don't know. It's just, it becomes very hard for me to take it seriously at all when it's attached to the Italian. Oh yeah,
mama.
Like, I don't want to be that guy, but it's like when I see the thing of someone doing just mouth noises for about 4 minutes, and then later gives me a very because it's like this is the thing that bothers me most about it. They got like, would you say 4,000 subscribers? Yeah. Their videos do about as well as ours do, which is sad. That shit looked way better than ours. That looked like they put that shit together. They had a professional take some photos. We have an aesthetic that we stick to. There's a reason. It's not. It's not that
preference.
It's not just like I ate a bunch of lead paint and now I can't make art good. Like, there's a reason.
Actually,
we do
it is kind of like we just ate a bunch of lead paint.
I ain't got no learnings. Here's my art.
No,
if you were trying to present something as like, oh, look at me, I'm a serious spiritual person and you should take me very seriously, Oprah, please have me on your show. Is Oprah still a thing? Anyway,
I don't know.
Yeah, like,
no, I think she's absconded to be a billionaire in silence.
She has retreated to the stillness of her $1 billion.
Her $1 billion has hidden her from the world. She will only emerge like a moth once a year in the lunar cycle
to gather her $1 trillion. And then return to her
$1 trillion, return to her nest and feed on it like the vulture she is.
Like a cicada cycle.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, 7 years. It's time for another Oprah.
Time to go get that money.
Her cocoon opens and she shouts, Stedman! Stedman! I hunger!
You get a head eating, and you get a head eating. Everybody gets a head eating.
Oprah as the Eldritchian horror, sleeping, dreaming, but not dead.
Hanging upside down in her $1 billion house.
Somebody just says, Oprah, they invented Ozempic. You got to come back and talk about it.
Do you think she will? Has she?
Oh, I'm sure. She's had like that weight loss thing going on, boomeranging.
What if she was like in the first rung of it? She was like, no one else knew about it for like years. She lobbied against it going out public. Could you imagine? Fucking wild.
Damn, Oprah, how could you do that fucked up shit that I just said you did that I have no proof that you did?
Damn, Oprah. That's 3 people saying you did that thing that's crazy. You did that.
Damn, you bought Little St. James, Oprah?
4 people.
Oh, my God. I personally think that Lady Sarah needs to get back to her roots. And next episode, I want to see her just going, welcome to, what was it? I've already forgotten the name of the podcast. Divinely Human. Divinely Human. Welcome. I am It's almost, I guess it's almost Lion King now.
Yeah, right at the end.
No, she just comes out and she's like, when the moon hits your eyes like a big pizza pie, that's amore. We should have her on the show.
Contact her to do an intro for the CMN for the news.
Go onto her channel and don't be mean. Don't say anything negative. Just be like, hey, cool. I'm here from Chaos Magick News.
They have an inquiry for you.
They want you to be on the show.
That's terrifying. Actually, no, don't do any of that.
This is going to cause problems. You know that,
yeah,
right?
That's not a good idea.
I said don't be mean. I said it. Do not be mean. Do not bully this person. Don't be a jerk to somebody else.
Yourself. Be like, hi, my name is...
Yeah, don't make the listeners do your dirty work.
I'm telling you to be on my podcast.
Just say, hey, Italian lady, Baba Ghoul.
My name is and I want you to be on my podcast.
Typing bippida boppida boopy into the comments section.
As a representative for the Chaos Magick News Group.
You're going to be a star, baby. A star seed, baby.
This is going to be the best episode ever, y'all.
We are off to a banger of a start. Do we want to talk about the Quilverse real quick?
Yes. What is, in fact, the Quilverse? You said this earlier, and I did not research it. I wanted to hear it straight from the teeth.
I thought you said Gorillaverse. I always thought we were going to talk about Grodd.
I've heard of Gorillaverse. I'm into Gorillaverse.
Yeah, like Plastic Island.
Yeah, exactly. Plastic Island.
They got a new album coming out.
Do they?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact date, but it's coming out relatively soon.
Oh, no, I meant like the subreddit called Gorillaverse, where there's like, it's like pictures of gorillas fighting and like videos and shit.
Well, I mean, I like that too.
Yeah, no, I mean,
how
like,
many gorillas would
cool.
it take to beat the Italian woman, you think?
Like 300
Probably
at least.
just one.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
All of them. Like, it would take the entire...
Why is she so strong?
She speaks from the light.
Why is she such a strong
gorilla
lady?
on the planet.
She's so strong. Is it magic that she's so strong?
It's like the ending scene of that Jet Li movie, The Lion. It's just like a mountain of like gorillas climbing up, and she's just standing on the top, slinging them off.
That's wild. Typing it into an image generator as we speak.
She just sits there in perfect stillness at the top of the mountain as Planet of the Apes is going down beneath her. And then she just says one word, and like light shines through everyone and enlightens all of the gorillas. And they go to a gorilla, they build Gorilla City, and it's all great. You know, it's Commandy, basically. And that word, spaghetti.
Jesus.
Are we assholes for like not? How much you want to bet that it's like, that's definitely not Italian, but like how much you want to bet that's actually a language and it's not just her like, you know, talking in tongues?
It's like what, like Maltese or something?
It's the light language, she said. The video title said the light language.
I'm the light bringer. I'm here for the light bringer. I'm here to speak the light language.
I've channeled a message.
It's
about stillness. It's stillness, so that you know that when the History of Power Rangers video goes up, it's because it's done, not before.
That's good. Oh, shit.
And now that no one else is listening, everyone is already tuned out, we can talk about the, what'd you say, the Quilverse? I'm not even going to lie. This is just something I found on Facebook.
Is it like a test, a quiz, a game?
Because Quilverse is copyrighted. It's Quill verse. It's Quilverse. Oh, well, that is copyrighted. Quilverse is like a guiding writers to avoid subtle mistakes that
Was this an ad?
Yeah. No, like I'm saying, oh God, yeah. No. This is not this is like a writer's help thing.
Oh,
and they use AI. Great. Oh boy.
Welcome to the machine, fuckers.
Of course they
right.
do. Yep.
Who doesn't use AI at this point? Most of my stuff on the Discord is just AI.
We don't. Except for that one episode where we did use it, and I honestly regret it to this day.
It was one of the worst episodes.
It was a pretty bad one.
I think we can top it with this one.
I think every time we have a chance to make a gold or a stinker, and sometimes the stinkers are good. You know what I mean?
Tell me about this Quilverse before they get sued.
Okay.
This is a Facebook post. The Myth of Myth, a Facebook campaign by Thoth.
Hell yeah.
Slogan: you were told it was a game. That was the first lie. Objective: Thoth launches a truth activation campaign across Earth 616's digital platforms, beginning with Facebook, which has become the primary tool of mass memory distortion, entertainment hypnosis, and myth suppression.
Okay.
This campaign is subtle, symbolic, and surgical, designed to bypass cognitive firewalls and awaken ancestral memory.
Oh my God.
Back up. They said Earth 616, like the Marvel Comics thing.
You're already angry about Earth 616, aren't you?
Yeah. That's what I latched on to.
Jesus.
I wasn't that far off with Gorilla Grodd then.
You know what? Doom was right. Let's just fucking wipe everyone out. Team Vic forever.
Well, the lesson here, the first lesson is
Don't use a name that's already been taken by like a company.
Campaign strategy. 1, target demographic. Disenfranchised creatives, gamers and storytellers, Black and indigenous youth with spiritual dreams, survivors of propaganda systems, philosophers, conspiracy theorists, and late night scrollers. Have we figured out any of what this actually means yet?
No idea.
Seems kind of racist.
Maybe a tiny bit. Primary content streams. 1, the feather drops, reels and shorts. 15-second scroll stopper showing fictional moments from Quilverse with Thoth's voice overlay. What you call a fantasy is someone else's suppressed memory. Example, Blade Sunfire emerging from the shadows with the caption, "They said she was a character, but we found her name in ancient Babylonian tombs."
This is Christian stuff.
You're not wrong. This is fucking like crazy weeaboo.
Okay, hang on. 2, the game that wasn't. Carousel post. Carousel format exposing that the Quilverse is a memory library, not entertainment. 1, slide 1. The Quilverse is just a game. 2, slide 2. So what did the dream architects of Sigil use Meta for... So why did the dream architects of Sigil sue Meta for spiritual theft in 2018? Slide 3. Why is every major storyline a mirror of Forbidden Earth histories? Slide 4. You didn't imagine it. You remembered it. So, like, what's the point of this? Like, getting people to, like, buy into weird fantasies?
This is Christian stuff.
Myth fact checks, infographics, combats multiverse denial with visual rebuttals. Myth, the multiverse is just sci-fi. Fact, string theory, dream bleed, and the Mandela effect are all scientific symptoms of dimensional overlap.
Hey, can I see citations on that? I mean, I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying, that's a bold claim. And if you're going to make that claim, I'd like some fucking proof.
This is just word fucking soup, right? Like,
this is fucking timeline shifting shit. Like, I'm going to take a nap and I'm going to go be with fucking Draco Malfoy for 30 minutes.
Who is my husband.
Yes.
And I'm also married to Harry Potter. And we are in a polyamorous relationship.
I think I was wrong. I think this is like ARG advertising campaign for a company that is going to help you use like large language models to write your fantasy novel. That's my guess here.
Oh wait, no, this is what you're saying they do?
I think that's what this is.
Oh, okay.
I think they just wanted to slap Quilverse into a weird thing to get you to Google Quilverse and then find this website that's going to help you be a better writer. Or it starts with like, oh, we'll help you be a better writer using our AI stuff. And then they like Christian you.
Then they take all of your ideas and turn you into Christian. They stick you up at gunpoint. And make you wear a fucking little gauntlet thing on, a striped shirt.
They make you write the sequel to Lightbringer.
All right, here is my new podcast idea. It is like Chaos Magic News podcast, and there's only singular host, and he is called Kennedo Host.
Kennedo.
Original character, please do not steal.
They live on the Earth 616. Mm-hmm.
No, this is Earth 325. That's because that's how this works, right? It's like a multiverse, is what they're saying.
Damn good time.
Local. What was the Justice Society Earth?
Fuck. I don't know.
There was definitely members.
The book is
Earth,
in the
wait, Earth
room.
3? Was it Earth 3?
I don't think it was Earth 3. I think it was
You're
like
talking
Earth
with
4 or
Owlman.
5.
You're talking Owlman and Ultraman and the...
No, I'm talking
No,
like...
that was Earth 2.
Yeah, I'm talking old man Superman and Batman and fucking Alan Scott Green Lantern and shit.
Hang on
Oh, that's Earth 2.
Minute. No,
That's
Earth
Earth 2,
2's
man.
the evil one, isn't it?
No, that's Earth 3. That's the one I was thinking of.
And now that no one is listening to this shit, they have like a little picture along with it. That's like a picture of like a ibis head guy, Thoth looking kind of guy. And it says, the myth of myth. You were told it was a game. It was the first lie. And then it's just kind of the same fucking shit over and over again. It's, the
AI
Quilverse is just a
generated
game.
poster bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. The multiverse remembers you.
Yeah, dude, this is this is a ploy. This is probably a bot using ChatGPT generated whatevers. The trick is to get you to Google Quilverse so that they can help you with your novel, and then they're going to make you Christian.
I'm in. Can you go ahead and send the go ahead and put the link at the end of the podcast notes? Just
all right. I guess that's enough banishing with laughter at this point, right? I think we're good on this.
You might be able to cut the whole Quilverse thing out. If I'm 100%, maybe like just leave, maybe just like careful editing of like start talking, and then when we start talking about comic books and stuff, like you put music in there and we just go, so that was awful, never mind.
No, leave the comic stuff in there.
I think that the name of this episode is just going to be Now That No One's Listening.
I think we need to go on to the news. Yeah, it's
What's
time.
in the news?
We've pussyfooted around it long enough.
Yeah,
let's get all up in that news, boys.
Let's get in the news.
Just like a bullet in our boy's neck.
Oh boy. Oh no. Okay. All right.
Wait,
well,
I
first,
hope you weren't recording that.
Well, before
it's live. We've been doing this live the last two
this
takes.
is the first live episode. No. It's time for everyone's favorite segment,
The one where we roll up our sleeves, we invoke journalistic excellence, and we ask, what's in the news?
what is in the news indeed?
All right. We're going to rip this Band-Aid off. Charlie Kirk.
Charles Kirk.
By the time this thing is going to come out, everybody is going to have said everything that they could possibly say about it. There's a whole lot of back and forth. It's a lot of bad shit. Everything this news story touches turns to rot. It's awful. We're going to try to get through it real quick and just sort of give you guys the rundown and give you our quick thoughts on it. And hello, listeners. This is Doug Burning Man, executive producer for CMN. Due to a pending merger of CMN, I mean, due to our long-standing commitment to civility and moral conduct, we have indefinitely pulled CMN from the air. We are waiting for a public apology and self-flagellation of the two hosts, and for now, we bring you Celebrity Family Feud.
Now you see, Mr. Harvey, I have been acting for many years.
Hey, it's me, Dice Clay. Why am I on Family Feud?
Hey, I'm Dice!
Hold the fuck up. Steve Harvey hosts Family Feud now?
Yeah.
Since when?
You won't believe what he does instead of kissing him.
All right, moving on.
All right, so with the main story out of the way, and with permission from our executive producer, we are going to talk about a article that came out a few days before the incident, which caught some people's attention. If you're a woo-woo, you damn sure saw this. Jezebel pulled an article from their website, but I knew it was going to go down, so I got screen grabs and I have sent them to everyone involved.
I would be shocked if it wasn't caught by the Wayback Machine too.
Oh yeah, I mean it'll probably be back up eventually, I guess, but the article was titled, "We paid some Etsy witches to curse Charlie Kirk." I'm not gonna like sit here and read the article. Blah blah. That's whatever. But the thing about it is that it started a whole bunch of like people making jokey jokes, saying like, "Oh man, those Etsy witches really done it. Oh my god, I apologize. I should have taken them more seriously." But as somebody who wholeheartedly believes in spooky nonsense, I have a real issue with this for one big thing. If you do some kind of spooky nonsense, if you do some magic to make something happen, and then something that is not the thing that you asked for happens, because in the article it states, I did not want any harm to actually come to Charlie Kirk. I was not attempting any physical harm. I wasn't trying to fuck him up. Mostly what it came down to is that the writer was
enticing Etsy witches to like do minor inconveniences and annoyances and to try to like bring the, you know, to cause problems for him in his daily life, which is very different from an act of violence. Yeah, an assassination, you know? So that's the thing. It's a bit like if somebody said, I want this person to have, I want this person to get like a really ugly zit, or like, I want this person to just be like musty for the next 7 days, you know? And then they got in a car wreck. And then somebody's going, oh my God, what did I do? You know, everybody's like, oh man, the curse worked too well. And it's like, no, it didn't work at all because it didn't do the thing that you specified for it to do. You don't get points for sounds like, you know what I mean? Counterpoint. What if all the minor inconveniences that the writer was putting Charlie Kirk or subjecting Charlie Kirk to, like, added up? This isn't D&D. It's not like the damage stacks. Are you fucking, oh man, it was supposed to be a 3rd level spell. Now it's a 9th level spell, and he's got to roll a saving. What if was like, it was inconvenient that security didn't do a better job? No. Like, or it was inconvenient that he was in front of people. Look, man, I'm 100% that it's like, if anybody, if I doubt that the person that wrote this article was taking this seriously at all. The article really does go into the ideas of like people using magic or using these people offering magical services as a way to assert a sense of control in their life against things that they don't have a handle on or they have no real tangible way of impacting, which is a critique that you can make about occultism in general. It's like, it's people that have no agency that are seeking a way to feel like they have agency. You know, that's the idea. I don't get the impression that this person took this seriously at all. This was like this is something that should have been a very ha-ha article, like a very funny whatever kind of article that people that would pass around and be like, oh yeah, whatever. The time instead, instead this is like the sort of sick sense of humor of the universe sometimes. It's just the worst the worst possible time to publish the article, I guess, other than like the day before. You know, it was a couple days. It was way better than the Times article that was, hey, has anyone heard of this Charlie Kirk guy? Sure hope he doesn't get hurt or something. Ugh, God. But yeah, for real, it's just one of those things where it's like, this person, I don't think took it seriously. And when it comes down to it, like, you didn't actually get what you were asking for. So I find it, I don't, anybody who's giving the Etsy witches a blue ribbon here is like, you're just wrong. It didn't work. You know, I think like, it's mostly humor, of course, is what I think it is. But because it is funny. It is funny to be like, ha ha ha, the Etsy witches got Charlie. Yeah, I guess that's what it comes down to. But it's just one of those, like, as somebody who does have a certain level of like, let's actually look at what happened. It's like, this is not, you know, that you don't, like I said, you don't get points for sounds like, you know, and I think if you do magic to like, I suppose there's the argument that like, oh, well, what if the Etsy witches were bad and they just fucked up and did something way worse than they intended? Like, that's, I guess, an argument you could make.
Like, what if that's why our universe is steered where it's at currently is because of Etsy witches?
Oh, what if everything bad that's going on is Etsy witches?
Yeah. Maybe we should ban the Etsy witches.
Blame it all on the Etsy witches. That you think that this is going to lead to like a blowback and they're going to be like, no more fucking magic on Etsy, right? Oh. Etsy already cracked down on like sexual stuff. Like, you know, people selling like monogram dildos or whatever. So there was already this crackdown on like adult content and like sexual stuff. I have a weird feeling that between the bad publicity of this and then the fact that I saw another article talking about how Etsy has been flooded by ChatGPT, LMN. I'm gonna type in like a tarot reading thing and then send it to you, and you're gonna give me $40, like that type of shit. I think between the AI slop and like just the general bad publicity of all of this, I think Etsy is probably taking a real hard look on whether or not they want to let this stuff fly. I mean, and remember, like, we went back to like the blowjob sigil stuff, right? Oh yeah, talking about I think that was the chi ball bonus episode for the Patreon, but we were talking about like people selling blowjob sigils and like, you know, make your ex come back spell and stuff like that. And I think like
I did go ahead and take the company card, by the way, and I did buy every one of them for myself and none for you.
Did they work?
No, man. I'm in terrible debt. My life's a wreck, and I'm having a bad time.
And my mouth hurts. And she still didn't come back. God damn.
I think I got mugged on Etsy from the witches.
Maybe these Etsy witches got a real inflated ego now where they're going to be like, all right, you know, like explode your ex's car spell. I tell you this much. I'm pretty sure that every single one of the people involved in the Hex Charlie Kirk people, I think their prices are going up. Or the feds are like taking them in for questioning.
Commit domestic terrorism, Hex, please. Thank you.
I think we made that joke before of like, you know, the problem is that a court would have to recognize that magic is real and like effective before they would be able to prosecute anybody. And that's going to open a real bad can of worms.
Yeah, could you imagine if they did do that? Like, we would be in for a real bad time.
We'd be making bank. We'd be getting called in as experts and shit.
Fucking doctorates.
Expert testimony. I'd be the Better Call Saul of magic, bro.
Well, I mean, I would. Y'all guys. I'd throw y'all under the bus like right out of the gate.
Your Honor, my client could not have possibly be guilty of this crime because they are but a neophyte. They have no cords. They have no degrees. I think they got in because they brought somebody some lateral punch to one of the meetings. Do you know what that is, Your Honor? It's persimmons and rum.
Y'all see, they was born under the new moon, and this spell specifically requires a full moon birth.
Your Honor, this was a spell to bewitch a virgin. The defendant is not a virgin. I move for an immediate dismissal. Now, I know that my client is being accused of some very, very devious crimes, but I would like to remind the court that it was Mercury retrograde. Now, I'm just a simple country Kabbalist. oh man, I knew some laughs were coming.
As I am saying, my three clients, they was shit. I can't even get into it.
Is this a West Memphis 3 joke? Oh, god damn it!
Just fucking cut this, please.
Now, Your Honor, this may have broken the law, but it did not break the rule of 3. Your Honor, there is but one law, to do what thou wilt. Ah, fuck, we gotta let everybody go now.
And that shall be the whole of the law, Lord. Praise Jesus and amen. And then he gives candy to the jury.
Oh, God, guilty on all counts. Send them away. But yeah, I think that's about all I've got. It's like I said, the real bad timing. I would not want to be anyone in the editor's room of Jezebel. I would not want to be anybody that's on the board for Etsy right now. It's just not good for anyone.
Yeah, I know. I'm on both of those. So
we're having a week. Now, I am serious. I bet that it's coming down the pipeline. It's going to be a ban on like you cannot sell magic as a surface on our website anymore. So everyone better go to the CMN Etsy shop right now to get your I'm really cool guy sigils. Well, you know what? If they do kick us off of Etsy for selling the really cool guy sigils, you can still get them if you give us $5 for the Patreon. And now that nobody is listening, what other stories do we have?
The biggest story is that you guys have a Patreon.
Yeah, I heard from some guys recently, like just a second ago, that it's only $5 and you'll be an Aeon of the universe and contact your elders
been
about
on it. Stop. Just cut all that.
Join our Patreon.
Cut all that nonsense.
Okay.
Just cut all that fucking bullshit. I'm fucking sick of these two.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm just gonna go kill myself now. Thanks.
Sorry,
guys.
I didn't realize the banger social media plugin wasn't gonna work out.
Just gonna go mix some ammonia and bleach. And then huff it. Thanks, guys.
There's been an uprising in Nepal. It has led to they burned the parliament building down. They murdered what was the prime minister's wife?
PM's wife.
I don't.
PM's wife.
Did she actually die? I know she was assaulted and burned burn badly.
Burned alive.
Damn.
Guys. Yeah.
Medieval on that lady.
There's been a level of brutality there that is quite frankly just god awful. It's being reported on as like a Gen Z uprising. There was, a social media crackdown that led to this, and among other things. I find that hard to believe. I don't think it was just like, oh, they took away.
Well, it was also years and years of widespread
This was a
corruption.
long time coming sort of thing. Now, they have already elected a new prime minister, which I believe there was some stuff about like it involving Discord for the election.
There was like a poll of some kind. I believe it's an interim prime minister, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's the first female prime minister, as NPR felt the need. Like, that's the big story to come out of this. Like, hey, how Gen Z's uprising led to the first female prime minister of Nepal. Not widespread corruption causes uprising.
Yeah, but they're much like when everything went down in Haiti. It's like there's just a lot of reports of people are getting hurt in the crossfire, and you hate to see it, but you do have to acknowledge the realities of uprisings and things like that. Political violence.
It's never the answer.
And we don't live in a perfect world where corruption and things like that just disappear because you ask it nicely. The problem with situations like this is you don't know which way it's going to go. There are many cases where bloody uprisings, even with the best of intentions, lead to atrocities that we could not imagine. I simply hope the best for Nepal, and this is very much just reporting on it as like world's on fire, Yeah. Other more world's on fire headlines. Russia is sending drones over Poland's borders. There's a lot of back and forth on whether this is an intentional act of testing what the NATO response is going to be, testing what the defenses look like. Drones have been shot down.
Playing chicken, buddy.
There's also a couple instances where people are saying that perhaps this is simply unintentional overflow from the war in Ukraine. It's dicey shit.
A day ago, Poland accused Russia of violating NATO airspace, essentially.
Hey, didn't something really important happen in Poland like a couple decades ago? Something really important?
Sausage?
I'm really tired of history rhyming so well. Like, could you imagine if another world war broke out because Poland got... Yeah. Like, it's just brutal.
People are going to think I made this shit up.
Yeah, they're going to think I made this shit up, man. Yeah, so that's very dicey territory. We keep teetering on World War III. America is discussing more sanctions on Russia, and apparently we're going back to Afghanistan. That's what Trump said, which is
again
lovely. Yeah. I guess, like, aren't you tired of history rhyming?
This isn't even rhyming. This is just like a chorus.
Right now is a very punctuated time in world history, in American history right now, where we feel, I think possibly a lot of us are feeling like we're teetering on the edge. I know that we have older listeners who might remember like the Cold War, I guess, but I think for a lot of us, it's starting to hit with this gravity of like one idiot slip up could really plunge things. Things are bad now, but I feel like we're all fucking on the razor's edge of like, it's just one tilt in the wrong direction and it's all going to come tumbling down. But in times like this, I always strongly urge people to look at the people around them, figure out how you can support them, figure out how to keep people going, figure out how to keep people alive, keep people safe, keep people fed. If you put your energy into that, it will be a lot more fruitful than giving your energy to these. And I don't want to be like, oh, the media is bad, man. But you do have to understand that the news in and of itself does
have a function of trying to suck up your bandwidth and keep you scared, keep you glued to a screen, keep you doom scrolling, and keeping you paralyzed at the thought of how everything can go really wrong. And in some small way, this show can contribute to fighting that problem by giving you a little bit of a belly laugh and maybe a little bit of inspiration of understanding the magical universe that we do indeed inhabit. And to help illustrate that, I have a great headline on an issue that I think needs your attention. The kingdom of Kubala has been evicted for a second time from the border woods of Scotland.
Good.
Fucking fascist, man.
Good.
Dude,
I'm glad.
Fucking hell no.
For those of you who are unaware, the kingdom of Kubala is a group of 3 people who are a self-proclaimed kingdom with a ruler that were taking up camp on privately owned land near Yaber, and they were asked to move. They moved a few meters away to the other side of a wire fence, and they were told they have to go again. Now, all of us are familiar with Emperor Norton, Emperor of America,
Protector of Mexico.
and Protector of Mexico, right? I think that it would really serve us all well if we found a way to show some support. I mean, somebody's got a backyard, right? It's 3 guys. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So surely somebody in Scotland should just be like, "Oi, yeah, it's fine. You can use the hose even."
As long as I get to watch.
I just think that somebody really should just, take these people in and just really start building these political alliances that we're going to need in the next World War.
We're going to need the kingdom of Kubala to help us when the bombs drop. They're beefy guys, I hear.
For the record, all right, the kingdom of Kubala has an ancestral claim to Scotland, which they say was once ruled by Black Jacobites.
Cool.
Of course.
I'm just saying, they have their own spiritual customs. They do not recognize the authority of local governments. Because why would you? Because you are ruled by His Majesty of King Antahine and Queen Nandi. I mean, now, granted, they only have one follower, which I don't know. Hopefully he has some kind of royal title for being
I was
like
about
the
to say,
one
could you
guy
imagine being the 3rd guy in that? That would suck.
Wait,
All right, we got
Are you
King.
telling me this is just one guy?
I'm just hung up on what type of governments they don't recognize. Got him.
Oh, man. Oh, they also believe that the true Jerusalem is located in Scotland, which I'm sure William Blake is like, damn, I was so close.
He's not the chosen one.
I'm just saying, guys, if you want the world to be a little more whimsical, a little more magical, somebody, I don't think we have a single listener in Scotland. But wait. Doesn't Grant Morrison still live in Scotland?
I think so.
Grant,
Mr. Morrison, please.
Mr. Morrison, come on. I know, I know you've got some property. Don't you want royalty in your backyard? I think that would be really good for you, for them.
Actually, I think Grant Morrison would probably be like, nah, I fucking hate royals.
No, he probably hates the UK royals. He might be okay with these people.
He should. They're the original Scottish royalty over in Jerusalem.
What is up with that? That is such a funny thing because there are so many people that are just like, nah. The original chosen people, they're actually over here. And it's always somewhere insane. It's Scotland. There was the bad anthropology folks talking about how Gaelic and Sanskrit are basically the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
And they're and then talking about the original
Gaelic is
Jews.
just Sanskrit with an Irish accent.
And
Holy
it's the
fuck,
original
what?
The original Jews, no, that's Ireland, man.
Little derby hats instead of
There's been a lot of argument about whether Jerusalem is where they say it is all I'm saying. So why not Scotland?
Man, it's all subjective, man. Land's land. We don't even own the stuff. You know what I mean?
Guys, the third person is a handmaiden.
Oh, you're fucking kidding me.
Who came over from Texas. Holy shit. Oh my God.
They have a growing online presence. So again, listeners, you can do your part to aid the kingdom of Kubala.
Yeah, they're going to need at least like one night, right? Like, how you going to call yourself a kingdom if you ain't got a night?
I still love that their response of like they got evicted and they were like, all right, we'll go on the other side of the fence. Fine. So now when they get evicted this time, they're going to like go down the road. They're going to be by the Sunoco or something.
Oh my God. That's pretty good.
God, could you imagine? Like, I'm making jokes, but like, God, imagine you just own like you own like an acre or two or something, and you like wake up one day and there are some people that are like, I'm king. This is my ancestral land.
This is my wife, the queen.
This is my wife, the queen, and this is our handmaiden. Howdy.
You will vacate this house immediately.
They don't even want they don't even want your house. They're just like, no. This is our land. We're
roasting marshmallows or whatever the hell they call them
fucking
over
sofa.
Whatever they call them over in the UK.
We getting little Sammys. I don't know.
Squishy mallow sweeties. Some ridiculous shit like that.
Gross. You kiss your mother with that mouth.
I kissed the hand of King Amenti or whatever his name was.
King Mento Memorial.
We are not endearing ourselves to the royalty, are we?
No. But I was thinking, if you guys were going to start a kingdom and claim that Jerusalem was somewhere, where would you do it?
In cyberspace.
Definitely south of the Mason-Dixon.
God damn.
Like how south?
Way down south in the
like,
land of traitors. Rattlesnakes and alligators.
Run away.
Yeah, South Florida. Like Orlando.
Like Orlando. I do it at Disney World. Like, this was all Jerusalem once. And my ancestral home.
Gorge.
I'm sorry, Walt. Your park is on my ancestral home.
I don't think he'd be upset. I think he'd be chill.
That would be that'd be karmic justice for all the anti-Semitism. I think I would choose somewhere, you know what? You know where this would fly, probably?
Where?
Like in Colorado.
Oh, right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There is a king of Boulder right now, I bet.
There's like places in Colorado and Maine and all that area. I know that's not right next to each other, but you know what I mean.
Well, no, are you saying there's like areas where you could just like get away with that and no one would even fucking notice you?
100%. Yeah. Like there's so much crazy shit. Portlandia is a joke, but it's real, man.
Oh, man. You know, you could go to like the middle of Arizona and no one would want it.
Slab City, California.
Dude.
It's hot. It's sandy. It's 100 degrees with the sun down. And you're like, yeah, this is all ours as far as the eye can see.
Yes, it's me, Garlandia.
Garlandia. You see my royal subject, that lizard over there on the rock.
Sheldrake, no! As he's eaten by a... I'd do it in, like, Hawaii, I think. That'd probably be a good one, right?
Sick. That's what not Musk. That's what Zucky Buck's doing right now.
Oh, actually, no, I got the perfect and local. You'll appreciate this. I would go to Little St. James or whatever it's called and be like, this is my ancestral land.
Hell yeah. I mean, it's already set up to have a cult.
No, you're like, tear down this temple. This is not the true temple of God.
Guys, we're really close, but I think we need to talk about there's a few things we could change here.
Yeah, like all them cameras, they got to go. God doesn't like being filmed.
God does not like his money being filmed.
Since we brought up Disney, a man in scuba gear robbed Disney restaurant, then swam away.
The ultimate heist.
I've heard a theory because there were hotels that overlooked the restaurant that he was actually staying in one of the hotels and just like swam out and then robbed it and then went back to his hotel room.
That's awesome. I was thinking this was some sort of like Ocean's 1 sort of like heist.
Just a real, just a dude that just decided to pull off something.
What's fucked up is that there's crocodiles down there, like, or crocodiles, I guess alligators technically, but like, no, there's dangerous reptiles in the canals that he swam through. So like, dude accomplished a feat.
He wasn't scared.
Not only did he steal from Disney, he didn't get ate by alligators.
Well, he didn't get ate by alligators before he took the money. We don't know what happened to him ultimately.
Oh, this is going to be some DB
Cooper thing.
Yes! Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Oh, man, he got away. Yeah, until the gators got him. There's some gator that is rich as hell now. Well, you know, alligators have very slow digestive systems. They say that it's possible that the burlap sack he threw all the money in might still hold the money. No. What's going to happen is they're going to catch, they're not going to catch him, but they are going to find the money when some alligator who's never had that kind of dough before starts blowing it on stupid shit. He's like, look, I got the suicide doors on this coop. I got some alligator shoes. I don't know what they make them out of, but
cocaine is super cheap now.
Oh,
Is
man.
it? Is that one of the non-tariffed items?
No, Trump has pulled so many people away that like used to monitor drug trafficking to monitor like migrant trafficking, that it's just caused a surge in illegal drugs into the U.S. So the price of cocaine is tanked.
Oh.
Finally, Trump did something for the working man.
Well, God, you need it so you can get through the shift.
You need it now so you can work 70 hours and afford rent.
Now I'm sad.
You think you can afford rent. You know what I'm wondering, though, right? Because it just says, like, he swam up to the restaurant in full gear and then just, like, walked in and took the money.
I mean, would you refuse to give him the money? Like, this guy comes in a fucking... I'm being held up by a Venture Brothers character.
I mean, did he have it doesn't say he had a gun or anything. It's like he just walked in and grabbed it.
I imagine he had a harpoon gun.
Could you imagine here, let me set the scene for you guys, right? 45-year-old man, father of two, works a desk job. He's in like traffic control or something. He's on vacation with his wife and his family. And she's like, oh, honey, going scuba diving. It'll be so fun. You know, he pays all this money for the scuba diving venture, right? Wife is like, oh, I don't even really want to go now. I'm just tired. I think I'm just going to lay in the hotel. Kids are yelling and shit. She's like, well, someone's going to watch the kids anyway. You go. You have a great time. He didn't even want to fucking go on this goddamn trip. He hasn't loved his wife in 10 years. Before the kids, he thought the kids would fix it. And now he's being sent on this scuba diving thing. Oh, go have fun with the scuba diving. Go have fun with the scuba diving. And she's going to sit on her phone playing Candy Crush. And he gets out in the water and they're like, yeah. And, you know, the people fucking, they're like, you know, it's just some weird guy by himself going on a scuba adventure, whatever. So they're not paying any attention. They don't give a fuck. He's just out there by himself, basically. He doesn't fucking know what's going on.
This is literally a Grand Theft Auto mission that you're describing. You know that, right?
And then he just says, he's been looking at that fucking Disney resort the entire time out the fucking window. Fuck it. I'm going to get my goddamn money back. He swims out where he shouldn't. He gets out in there. He walks into the Disney. He's like, hey, give me some fucking money. And they're taking it back because they have not been robbed in a very long time, if ever, I'm sure. They're like, they're like, is this a bit? Is Disney doing a movie about like a scuba diver robber? Like, is that a thing? I don't know. I don't pay attention to the meetings in the morning. They just give him the money. They're flabbergasted. And he just swims back and he's just sitting there like, what am I going to fucking do with this?
Have either of you heard of a movie called Escape from Tomorrow?
No.
All right. Independent horror film from 2013, written and directed by Randy Moore in his directorial debut. This movie is notable in that it was actually filmed sort of like guerrilla style by like sneaking cameras into Disney World, right? And like filming scenes. It's kind of a neat idea, right? You know, it's like, it's not a very good movie in my opinion, but gotta admire the moxie. Do you think he went 2 for 2? Is this a movie? Like, do you think?
I hope so.
We're not even gonna have to hire an actor. You know, oh my God, it's a poor fucking. He's like, hey, all right, so like, what's gonna be like the sign that the actress is gonna hand me the money? Like, she's gonna like. He's like, we're big on improv in this movie. You just go in there.
Yeah. So what's the budget? I don't know yet. I gotta finish counting.
Do we need to do that scene again? No, we're good.
Oh man, I will say that like this guy hasn't been caught yet. America has a fascination with outlaws. We always have. I mean, Barefoot Bandit from like what 10, 15 years ago, something like that. But I feel like there is a weird movie that could be made out of this incident. I would actually go the opposite direction. I would be like, this guy is like a total family man, and his kids are having a good time, and he's like, yeah, this is going to be great. Everybody's loving it. And he's like, but he secretly knows that it's like, I'm actually here for one thing. And he has to like sneak away during the scuba scene and stuff. Like, fucking pulls up, gets the money, goes.
Actually, I would go the opposite route. You do a movie, it's like Clerks, right? It's just the people working at this fucking place. And then the climax of the film is getting robbed by scuba guy.
Oh, God. Either way, it'll be a lovely scene, and it should definitely be filmed in monochrome.
Just to touch on the magic a tiny bit here, to what Local said, right? Like, do you think that it was just the power of like showing up in a fucking ridiculous goddamn outfit and be like, give me some money?
Oh, no. I totally think that there is like a certain power to that, because it's something that breaks the natural order. When you bust up somebody's normal routine of like with something so absurd that no one would ever consider it. Like let's say hypothetically, because I don't know all of the details, even from the article I read, I don't have the details. I don't know if there were people in there or not. He might have gone up there, like kicked the door in when no one was there and just took the money. The fact that like no one would consider this, it's so dumb, it's so crazy that no one could counter it, because no one would expect it to happen.
How do you train for a scuba guy to show up and demand all your money? You're a 19-year-old hostess.
So fuck this, take it.
Hi, just the one? No, I won't be staying. Harpoon gun.
It's probably all insured. Would you not have an insured fucking insurance policy out the
I mean, that's
asshole?
definitely a thing. Like I think most places like this, their policy is like, no, if somebody shows up demanding money, like don't fight them on it,
Yeah, like even if you show up and just say, I would like to take all your money, please. I think for the most part, they're kind of trained to be like, yeah, here. Because I don't want to get like smacked, I guess.
I don't want you to just like throw one of those haymakers at me, because like even if you don't get the money, I really don't want to get punched.
Yeah, no one just resort to physical violence,
I'm just imagining like a training video now, because how corporations are, right? Like, whenever a big thing happens, they always like do the training afterwards to be like, all right, hey, here's how we prevent this from ever happening again. So now when you get hired to be like, what was the shop at Disney, by the way? Do we know?
Like Imagination? Disney Imagination Station or Lab or something like that?
Oh, what got robbed?
Yeah.
It was a restaurant.
You're the hostess at fucking, the Mickey Mouse fucking steakhouse, I guess.
And they're like, okay, this is how fast a harpoon dart comes out of a harpoon gun. You can catch it before it hits you.
No, and then
you don't have to give them any money.
No, because you know how these corporate things are, it's going to be like fucking like, hi, I'm Randy, and we're here to talk to you about violent theft.
You don't think they'll have like a Disney character doing it?
Ho-ho! We're going to talk about violent theft.
Get in the yuckin' van.
To help me is Elsa from Frozen.
I'm Steamboat Willie, and I'm legally usable.
Here to help us talk about harpoon gun safety is the Rat Boy. Oh my God, no.
Praise him.
Well, you see, if someone comes at you with a harpoon gun, you're fucked. You're fucked. Give in. Just give him whatever he wants.
That's actually really sensible, Rat Boy. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Rat Boy's making a lot of sense right now.
Rat Boy's getting around. He's fucking working for Disney now. You cannot stop the impending horror that is to come, so you might as well give him the money. Okay, one more dumb headline, just because this is someone that sometimes I can't resist talking about. And I have a big penchant for headlines that come out and then get retracted in about an hour.
Oh, that's pretty cool, yeah.
J.K. Rowling reunites Fleetwood Mac for 60th birthday party. Report.
Damn, that's money right there.
And then an hour later, no, Fleetwood Mac is not playing J.K. Rowling's birthday party.
Oh, that's not money. That's not cash money right there.
Again, not even talking about anything really relevant to like the Miss Rowling herself.
Well, that's like there was like the thing where everybody was saying that she had cancer, and then like that wasn't a thing. Like it was just like people saying fuck shit on the internet.
Yeah, right. Like I don't.
So like
really...
I guess, well, she's one of those people that like there is a certain level of like people constantly talk about her, and like just weird things come out. Like, do you remember like the black mold thing?
Oh yeah,
like, that's
like the photo with the. Yeah.
where she's sitting, well, and like, cause and trust me, I get it, because you look at that and it looks like you've got like a mansion, and like people like would obviously come in and clean and maintain it. And you have what appears to be like disgusting mold growing through the head. So I understand why, like, when you're somebody who is so controversial and so like really like you're an awful person, there is a lot of reasons that like she'll keep coming up. But the thing about that photo that gets me is everybody talks about the black mold, but they don't say anything about like the little dude that's in the corner.
What?
Do you guys know what I'm talking about? The little dude that's in that, like in the corner, like if you look in the corner of the photo, like there's just this weird little like grubby looking dude, and he's like, "You'll never find me. You'll never find me." And I'm like, "What do you mean I'm never gonna find you? Like you're right there. I see you. I see you in the photo." And it's like, "You'll never find me." And it's like, "How are you talking? It's a still image. Who are you? Who are you?" Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
How about we end the news now?
I'm not the only one that sees it, right?
That's enough news for today.
Okay.
Okay, so Glokal and Gary are gone.
Our executive producer had to have them removed from the show because of comments made earlier. They too must make a public apology and an act of self-flagellation.
Yeah.
But in the meantime,
we're going to give a little talk that we gave at a festival called Babalon Rising a couple months back for no other reason than it was too good just to kind of leave there.
We told everyone in the Discord that eventually it would be the culture piece for an episode. And much like the Zoetic Grimoire reading we said we were going to do for the Patreon, we said we were going to do it. We're going to get to it.
We're going to get to it.
We're going to get to it now, at least for this talk.
Right.
This is sort of a dry run of some of the ideas that are going to be present in the book that we've been passing between each other that eventually will exist in some form. Just going to have to go to lulu.com and self-publish. And
lulu.com. Self-publish. Oh, God. That's a joke for me.
Yep.
It will require some minor tweaking on our parts because we had to sit here and present it to an audience, so we were trying to be funny, and when it's just him and I in a room talking about this to you, the audience, it's a little different. We can't get reactions or interact with you as well, but
we'll just add the laugh track in at where you're supposed to chuckle. The Cartesian mind.
All right. So if you like any of this stuff, then get excited, because in probably what year is it now? It's 2025. So in like 2030, you'll be able to buy this book
off of lulu.com.
Yeah, off of Lulu, and then you'll be able to read a lot more about it. But for people who have listened to the show, this isn't going to be like a huge radical sort of new idea. It's maybe more of a finer articulation of the sort of things that we've always been talking about on the show, at least when it comes to our own particular theories and ideas about magic. Wouldn't you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I would say that it might be good in that this little talk can serve sort of like whenever we say something about like the normative understandings or like how we are practice first oriented occultists, stuff like that. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, in a way, it could kind of serve as an intro to what CMN's particular take on chaos magic sort of is. So maybe it'll be good for that.
Isn't that cute?
But it's wrong.
Yeah. All right, take it away.
Okay, so at first, a pretty lengthy quote from the familiar bastion of freedom that is Aleister Crowley. This was a panthelemic festival that we went to, so we felt it was appropriate to quote from Uncle Al. This book is very easy to misunderstand. Readers are asked to use the most minute critical care in the study of it, even as we have done in its preparation. In this book is spoken of the Sephiroth and the paths, of spirits and conjurations, of gods, spheres, planes, and many other things which may or may not exist. It is immaterial whether these things exist or not. By doing certain things, certain results will follow. Students are most earnestly warned against attributing objective reality or philosophic validity to any of them. The student, if he attains any success in the following practices, will find himself confronted by things, ideas, or beings too glorious or too dreadful to be described. It is essential that he remain the master of all that he beholds, hears, or conceives. Otherwise, he will be the slave of illusion and the prey of madness. There is little danger that any student, however idle or stupid, will fail to get some result, but there is a great danger that he will be led astray, obsessed, and overwhelmed by his results, even though it be by those which it is necessary that he should attain. Too often, moreover, he mistaketh the first resting place for the goal, and taketh off his armor as if he were a victor ere the fight is well begun. It is desirable that the student should never attach to any result the importance which it at first seems to possess. So yeah, that's kind of a long quote, but it touches on a broad spectrum of kind of what we're interested here to talk about today. You know, it manages to touch on a lot of things that as chaos magicians, you've probably already been considering.
We're going to present a few ideas that we pull from a lot of places and a lot of different people, but it's all with one real purpose, and it's trying to continue with what we've seen as the mandate of chaos magic from its inception. And that involves stripping away the things that are unnecessary and focusing on what moves the needle. And we pull from a lot of different sources in this talk. We mentioned Richard Rorty, we talk about Bert Dreyfus, we talk about Heidegger, Take a Shot. There's also there's a little bit of Castaneda here. There's a little bit of Franz Bardo and Gurdjieff. We can sum this up with three sort of pithy little phrases. 1, the primacy of practice. 2, the body as the locus of magical practice. And then the normative understanding of magic. Those might not make any sense to you right now. Maybe if you've listened to the show and you've picked it up or you've heard us babbling in the Discord, those might sound familiar. But to get to those little 3 statements making some sense, chaos magic, right? Does it need a definition?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
And it's because everyone has a lot of ideas and a lot of of their own idiosyncratic approach to it. But what we're really left with is chaos magic is a methodology. It's an approach, and it's ultimately a set of practices for dealing with a much larger set of practices.
Yeah, it's a way of dealing with the world is what it is.
When we say world, we don't just mean the table in front of you and things like that, but it is a background understanding that is as automatic as it is insidious. It's the water that the fish swims in.
Right, and we'll get to more of that in a second. But as you said, it's a set of practices that's aimed at dealing with a much larger set of practices that we kind of umbrella term as occultism, right? Its focuses on utility, it's on result, it's about a stripping away of everything that is unnecessary and concerning ourselves with the things that directly impact the results of practices.
So when we're talking about stripping away, we mean dogmatic ideas about the world, dogmatic answers, things about morality, even things about the mutable or immutable nature of the self, stuff like that. What we start thinking is that perhaps looking where we're at now, when chaos magic seems very focused on intent and personal experience, and it's maybe we need to go a little further upstream and start challenging some of the more basic assumptions that chaos magic has still yet to deal with.
Should I read that Carroll quote here? I think
I've got the quote here. It's a pretty good one from Peter Carroll and Liebernoll and Psychonaut that sort of gives you a taste, a flavor of chaos magic. And for a lot of you, you're already bored to tears, but I'll be quick. It's the very mutability of the etheric which has given rise to such a bewildering variety of magical activity and supportive thought forms all over the universe. The differences, however, are only superficial. When stripped of local symbolism and terminology, all systems show a remarkable uniformity of method. And like I said, that's what chaos magic is. And it's there's a lot of people that are, might even consider themselves chaotes that will try to bristle at that a little bit in our more present day circumstances of no, you need to follow the cultural and historical and all of this of these practices. If you're going to engage with them, you can't just steal things willy-nilly. And then meanwhile, there's also other people that are no, yeah, you can just take whatever you want. But the notion of the uniformity of method when stripped of local symbolism, the idea that when you pull the trappings off, a lot of magical practices, whether divination, whether it's reading tea leaves or reading tarot, there is a certain 3 lines of logic that you can follow and be no, these are just attempting to gain insight through a non-ordinary method.
From there, we have to kind of wonder where a lot of magic has now become informed by these ideas. People that aren't even particularly calling themselves chaotes or chaos magic people, the ideas of intent and your own we'll say, subjective experience doing magic is just sort of in the forefront for far more than just chaos magic now. It's something that's become very ubiquitous and, normal.
I think in the first episode of one of the very early episodes, we use the term folk coyotes, where it's even now like the Wiccas and, to an extent, Thelemites and a lot of other people and, eclectic witches, people that would not consider themselves as doing chaos magic are very much impacted by the ideas that chaos magic sort of put forth already.
So do we think that there's a reason for that? Like, is there an actual, is it just sort of, chaos magic was a cool idea and it's kind of become, something that infects everything else? Or do you think there's maybe a little more to it?
It's just easy. So it's like, do you mean I don't have to follow what the book said? It doesn't have to be a cedar branch. I can use an oak branch and it'll still probably work. Yeah, that's great. I can do that. I can get behind that. I can just say whatever I did worked because it kind of aligns with my intent. Sure.
That was something that we hadn't talked about as much, but there's a real way in which a lot of what chaos magic has become now is informed by the fact that
we're lazy.
Yeah, we're lazy and it's incredibly accessible to everybody. So the more uncomfortable parts of it or the parts that you have to maybe work a little harder to fully grasp, and this is us taking up for Liber Null in a certain way, which is good because we're about to yell at it a lot. A lot of the harder aspects of it get kind of forgotten about or described as, well, that's just Peter Carroll being Peter Carroll. It's got nothing to do with chaos magic. You can disregard it entirely, which might be true, but what are our motivations for that?
Circle back just a little bit. There are definitions of magic that most of us are familiar with. The Crowley, art and science of change and conformity with will. But Peter Carroll, again in Liber Null, has a slightly different definition.
Yeah, this is actually from an earlier version of Liber Null. It was book 0 and something else, various times before it was released. In Null itself, the published version, Carroll uses the familiar Crowley quote, but he has kind of a weird, interesting reformation of it in earlier ones. Magic may be defined as the science and art of willed change in perception. Now, it might be unfair of us to look at this and say, well, okay, this is from an earlier version of this book that was not freely published like the one we have now.
It wasn't even done yet. I wasn't even finished.
Maybe we're unfair for banging on this, but there's something to seeing where an idea like this is still very prevalent in chaos magic and where it might be something that has led us to where we are now.
And you can follow it up with a quote that actually did make it into the version that most of us are familiar with, where he goes, "The thinking mind has the property of splitting everything it encounters into two, as it is a dualistic thing itself. Yet there is a part of man which is of a singular nature, although the mind is unable to perceive it as such. Man considers himself a center of will and a center of perception. Will and perception are not separate, but only appear so to the mind." So right there, you can see where Carroll is laying this out. It's the notion that what exists in the world, what you perceive, is actually what you are willing to see. Not willing as in like, I'm gonna see it, but willing as in like the universe appears as I have willed. And that is an interesting notion. But then he even goes into the idea of the mind as the thing that is the reason that you cannot ascertain that they are one and the same. And this is where we do fall into this hole, talking about why so much of magic seems to be wrapped up in a subjective experience. It's the idea of like, well, if you can convince yourself that you saw something, or you can convince yourself that something is so, then that's the end of it, right? But this is where we're getting at, talking about like, maybe we need to go further upstream, because the term mind is an exceptionally prevalent idea. Everyone believes they have a mind. Maybe there are some contrarians that are listening to this. No. I read some Buddhism. I know there's no mind. We do not behave as such, I would think would be the answer there. But when you start questioning things about the mind, not just the mind as like the thing that you interact with or the thing that you have the experience of, but the very notion of like, well, where does our conception of mind come from? You have to go back into ye old philosophers.
Crowley told you not to attribute philosophic validity to any of this, but here we are trying to do something anyway. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Rene Descartes, a philosopher, he's probably the one most responsible for the world we live in today. Because of his philosophy, his writings, his ideas, and how they became the basis for the modern world's most successful practice, science. We have spent centuries developing practices for dealing with the world in terms of these kinds of ideas. That's what we kind of get at when we talk about the modern, materialistic, scientistic view of the world that most people have to some degree.
And when we say the most successful practice, we mean it. You know, your entire world is built off of the back of the prevailing paradigm of science. And that's not a bad thing. It lets us have this podcast. It lets us have Tylenol and vaccines for now, at least.
Yeah,
it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, we're not trying to be Luddites here and say that, oh, this is all a huge problem. We need to go back to monkey.
Science is a fuck.
Descartes' most famous quote, I'm sure you've all heard it before, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. This statement is the foundation for what would come to shape the world in every single one of our lives. The Cartesian subject.
And when we say Cartesian subject, we mean the self-sufficient mind.
Yeah, mind as a self-sufficient substance completely separated from a material or physical world of objects. The mind is able to know the world of objects through what is termed as representations of objects it creates or holds. The proverbial, you're not seeing the cup, you're seeing the light on reflecting into your blah, blah, blah. That sort of thing.
It can go into brain in a jar conversation really quickly.
I mean, yeah, that's exactly where it goes. But this was the way that we would organize the world around us, and it's the way things made sense. All knowledge is built on these sorts of relations between representeds and representations. Mathematics and logic are like this. Y'all might understand these as maybe models of the world, reality tunnels, however you want to go for. Truth in this sort of metaphysical background essentially equates to the idea of how closely our representations of the world, our experiences of it, our models of it correlate to an actual external reality, quote unquote.
Which in layman's terms means that, like, how well does your understanding of, like, if I walk up to a door, I can open it? That would be a very basic example of, like, if you walk up to a door and you open it, then, okay, yeah, you understand your conception of what you're experiencing makes sense. It correlates. And even if it's like I go up to the door and it's locked, it's like, okay, no, my model still makes sense because I understand why the door isn't opening, that sort of thing. If you walked up to a door and you opened it and instead there was just a brick wall, even, that would still be like, okay, yeah, that's a brick wall. I get it. If you walked up to a door and all of a sudden it was a fish, now we're in trouble.
A good one to point out here is probably like our understanding of the sun. Ancient man sees the sun rising and setting, and as we further work out the mathematics and the physics of it, we understand that the earth is actually rotating and the sun is staying essentially where it's at.
Yeah, so in that case, our model did not actually correlate to what was going on. And it's the idea that there are methods that you can ascertain the external reality. Though your sensory apparatus or something like that might be flawed, or your understanding of something might be flawed, you have ways of navigating to better and better models.
Right, and there's sort of an implicit understanding that our own everyday perceptions, our own typical representations of these things are flawed, but they're capable of, through the correlation of our representations and the ways of calculating and representing further through various practices we have, we can get to ideas and concepts that more closely relate to an objective reality as opposed to our subjective experience of it.
There's something to be said about this approach for a lot of reasons, because one, like I said, it does give us the foundation for the world that we currently live in. Even on like a magical basis, you do run into certain people. Nobody like our dear listeners. No, you guys are all great and objectively correct, and you think all the right things and you say all the right stuff, and you look really nice today. Did you do something new with your hair? You smell great. Like, yeah, that's kind of almost musky, but yeah, it's good. But you do run into certain spiritual types who sort of fall back on this notion that it's like, no, like none of this is real and none of this matters, and I can be the complete authoritarian ruler of my of my personal little reality because that's all there is. You know, it goes to solipsism almost.
Yeah. And as we said earlier, this leads to brain in a jar, I'm caught in the matrix thoughts really quickly. Obviously,
Yeah.
if we live in a world where our subjective experiences can be wrong and we have to, through various means, find a way to further understand and get to an objective world outside of us, how do we really know anything actually correlates to anything? How do I know I'm not a brain in a jar? How do I know I'm not the only person in the world? So on and so forth.
What if we told you that before Descartes, and more accurately, before Descartes' ideas and notions and methods and practice meaning a way of dealing with the world, before those became so widespread and ubiquitous, there was not a Cartesian subject. There was not a mind as we conceive of mind today. It's a weird idea, right?
Yeah, that's a weird one. That might be something that makes you ponder stuff for a minute. Because it's one thing for us to be like, oh no, we have this weird philosophical problem that most of us have dealt with at some point in our lives. It's another one to tell you that, like, hey, you know, that problem was not actually a problem for most of humanity. Most of history, that was not a problem.
Socrates didn't deal with that issue.
Many people would probably argue that they dealt with it in different ways, and there's probably a three lines of logic, if you believe people like Heidegger and stuff, that it all starts with Plato and then leads down to Descartes and eventually Kant.
We had to blame somebody somewhere, so like everyone before Descartes gets the pass.
I don't have time for this because this is a whole other conversation, but Foucault writes about it and Robert Brandom writes about it, and they talk about how before Descartes, we didn't understand things in terms of being represented as we did in terms of them having a resemblance, if that makes sense. It used to be that before Descartes, it was the way I can understand things through my perceptions is that my perceptions have some resemblance. They partake in something that this object of material form, as it were, partakes in. Whereas with Descartes, we start getting to the point where it's like, it's entirely possible that my representations have nothing to do with the objective world. It's possible that there's not an objective world.
A somewhat sneaky way to go about explaining what we mean by this, and it involves Nietzsche. The often misquoted and often misunderstood, possibly right now being misunderstood quote, when Nietzsche used the quote, God is dead. What Nietzsche meant by this, not only at one time was there a God, but God had now ceased to be. But it was because of a radical shift of our culture and social practices and understanding, in that there was a phenomena, there was an experience, and there was a background understanding. The water that the fish swam in. There was a way that we understood the world at one time that implicitly had God in it. And then there was a great shift to now that type of experience is no longer so.
The phenomena we sort of implicitly understood to be God in previous ages can no longer be understood as God.
And that sounds crazy because people are like, well, religion didn't go away. In a way, it was that we were all sort of split. We all now began compartmentalizing, like where religion still existed, people's religious practices and beliefs still existed. There are ways of trying to experience God. But because of things like Descartes and because of these social shifts, you know, things like Enlightenment era and like all sorts of historical happenings that basically unseated what at one time was taken for granted, at one time was seen as thus, and that was it.
Yeah, this used to be the ground we all stood on, and now that ground has receded.
Yes. And in a way, what we're arguing is that the subjective Cartesian mind, as in this mind that is self-sufficient, this mind that exists apart from all material matter, this mind that is, you know, and we can replace mind with like consciousness or whatever you'd want, but it's this thing that experiences but does not touch in a way, or does not directly interact with anything. It is something that is completely apart.
Yeah, it's always mediated between this thing and the world.
What we're arguing is that not only did this not exist, but it could at some point go away, just as our implicit understanding of God. And you can see in certain traditions of thought that that's already so. There are very easy arguments to make. I mean, I think Spinoza is the one that did it, where it was like talking about, it's like the mind's apart from everything. Why can't I think straight when I'm drunk?
Well, and pretty much neuroscience at this point has kind of turned into that as well. Clearly, this is all stuff that's happening in the meat brain, and there's physical reasons for it, essentially. But even so, there's still problems with this.
Yeah, there's still, well, it's the hard problem of consciousness. You know, it's the idea that like consciousness, it's like, well, no, the brain, the meat brain is just another mediary of mind to, you know, matter, that sort of thing. I think the argument that we're making is really what we experience as this Cartesian mind, as this subject that has subjective experience with an external world that we can't really know, only exists because that is what we are indoctrinated into. And I don't mean indoctrinated like someone brainwashed you. I mean, when you're born, you are inducted into this understanding of the world. I guess the question that you might be pondering is, well, how would one go about eliminating the subjective mind? How could you even conceive of something that is, you know, how can a fish talk its way out of water? And this is when we fall back on Richard Rorty, the famed pragmatist.
We love Richard Rorty, don't we, folks? This is actually a quote from Robert Brandom, guy I mentioned earlier. He was a student of Rorty, so he's got a lot of good things to say about him. This was Rorty's doctrine of eliminative materialism, the first really original response to the mind-body problem in generations. It was the view in the philosophy of mind that was correspondent to Nietzsche's historicist third way between theism and atheism. There once was a God. When our social practices and normative attitudes changed sufficiently, he died. It was by radically changing our practical attitudes that we killed him. So eliminative materialism acknowledges that there have been and still are Cartesian minds, which are ontologically distinct from the merely material. But we brought those minds into existence by our practices, and by changing our practices could eliminate them.
Now, this is not a call to materialism. Anybody who's listened to the show knows we're not materialists. We're not materialist in the way that most people would paint materialist.
Yeah.
Yeah, or approve of. Yeah. We're much worse.
Oh yeah, we're spooky morons.
But what is interesting is what we're talking about in the idea of our practices and our normative attitudes. How would you define a normative attitude or a normative understanding?
A normative status or a normative state is essentially being bound to some sort of norm. Norms understood for our purposes as like practical attitudes towards things. The way in which all of us as a culture, as a society, as sharing in these same sorts of practices, understand things to have meaning, be correct in terms of what we all agree upon implicitly in those practices. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 2 + 2 is 4, except like with funky, like when you're doing funky math that I don't understand because I didn't go to school.
Yeah,
but we all normatively understand that this symbol denotes the number 2, and that, you know, those two twos are a skirt that you wear when you're doing like a ballet. But it's normative standards are the things that allow us to actually have conversation because we all agree what a word means.
And they're the lines where cultures sort of break off from because we no longer have those same agreements and understandings that are implicit in the practices we undertake. This isn't the same as like we all agree on it by saying, all right, we all got together and we're saying that the Jesus fish means Jesus. This is ways in which we understand that it's wrong to put a cold drink on a wooden table because you're supposed to put a coaster under it.
Right.
That only makes sense to you when you live in a culture where you have cold drinks and coffee tables where you get rings on them and so on and so forth.
Right.
It's not wrong in some sort of logical sense per se, as it is one that's put forth by the attitudes and the aims of our culture and our practices.
Don't want rings on my table.
Yeah, I don't want rings on my coffee table.
Or even like even more basic of like, don't touch a hot stove. Why? Because you're going to burn yourself and it's going to hurt.
Right. Exactly.
You like, and it's generally accepted amongst us all that like, yeah, you don't want to burn yourself because it's going to hurt. and everyone going, oh, well, sometimes you like it.
And that's the whole point is that, okay, fine. I'll put you in the situation where, oh yeah, sometimes it feels really good to get burnt. Like how so? I don't know, maybe in like a kinky sort of way or something. Well, there you go. Now you have a different set of practices with different sets of aims, different practical attitudes towards them. It's a different normative stance where, in fact, in within the culture at large, you end up with a bigger normative stance where you don't burn people unless they want you to do so.
Yeah.
Within certain healthy bounds.
Again, this is what we mean when we're talking practices. This is what we mean by normative standards. So where does that get us with this notion of a Cartesian mind? This mind in which we all have our subjective experiences?
Well, really what it comes down to is we end up talking about like truth and stuff like that, right? Because that's sort of the issue we're grasping here is that if we have this sort of Cartesian subject idea that is sort of snuck its way into chaos magic as this, specifically chaos magic here, but it's because that's the issue we're trying to deal with at hand, right? Like, why is this happening in chaos magic? Why do we have this emphasis on subjective experience and individual intent? And where can we start to see something else to pull down another dogma to deal with? To do that, we have to kind of get into these notions of truth. As a brief aside to sort of make that point, we're going to talk about chaos magic's cool American cousin, Discordianism.
Yeah. Yeah, the two are sort of joined at the hip. Famous Discordian Robert Anton Wilson is somebody who is very much part of the philosophical movement that we're talking about. It's pragmatism. It's Rorty. It's William James, who he name drops extensively. And much like Wilson and Carroll, these are people that wanted to examine dogmas and assumptions and traditions and figure out what was necessary, what could be done away with entirely. And that's where we do get Rorty's ideas of eliminative materialism. And it's this idea that, a pretty radical one, that by changing our practices that we could somehow get past the mind-body problem of like you have a mind and then you have a body that are separate. But more importantly, this sort of subject-object distinction, that there's a way of not necessarily thinking, not necessarily expounding on it philosophically, but a way of practically approaching the world and dealing with it that could actually bypass these problems. There's a quote that it's like, if we were better about talking about the body, no one would ever have thought we had a mind. This is sort of a upstream philosophical argument to have about chaos magic, especially when we do get so bogged down in subjectivity. Like, we're all aware of it. We all do understand the limits of subjective experience as an end-all, be-all of everything. Because like when you talk about belief as a tool, when you talk about reality tunnels, when you talk about this notion of subjective experience being the only important facet, but then meanwhile you have somebody like, the cliche of somebody in the mental asylum that thinks they're Napoleon. How do you know he's not?
Well, ultimately it's what we're talking about, because we all know that Napoleon died because Napoleon is hundreds of years old at this point.
And this guy's wearing a straitjacket and living in a mental asylum,
Yeah. But we end up at these two poles in this issue, where if we believe the sort of Robert Anton Wilson reality tunnel idea, where we have a mind that places these different grids essentially on the whole world. Different bits of information come in and are organized in ways that are based off these grids, these models, these paradigms, if you want to use the chaos magic term. And outside of that is a world of just, noise, essentially. So we pick out, the data from the noise, we get the information, it's organized in a way that we understand based on those sorts of biases. If we don't go with that, then we have to lean on the other side of the idea of, well, okay, I have a mind, and if there's not a quote unquote like objective external world that these different grids get put on, and that's the way we explain subjective experience, then we have to go into the secret and the Kabbalion side of things, where your mind itself manifests and creates this world around us.
And this is what we're talking about, like belief as a tool. And I understand that there are people that are that have much more nuanced approaches. But there are not just coyotes. There are a lot of spiritual folks, like, you mentioned the manifestation racket, that sort of thing. But it's this idea that somehow anything that goes on in the mind is somehow being projected out onto the world. And you can just bring something out if you think about it hard enough, or if people fall back on the unconscious and talk about, it's like, if you can get it so that you're not consciously but unconsciously transmitting it out, it'll just pop up. That can be a very unhealthy idea because it can lead to a lot of really bad ideas about, the Toziel episode where we're talking about the spiritual contracts, and it's like, or the idea of you secretly had these bad things that you wanted to happen to you because, like, in your unconscious, you think you're a little shit. So bad things happen. And it's like, these are not healthy or productive ways of approaching these subjects anyway. But also, as we're trying to point out, there's not even a great philosophical or metaphysical argument for them either. And then, like I said, the Napoleon example, there are certain types, or there are, at least if you take the argument to its logical conclusion, it doesn't matter if Napoleon is in a straitjacket getting his meds in the little paper cup, because in his mind, he's really Napoleon, That's his reality tunnel. That's his subjective experience. So what's it matter? Who dare challenge that? But then the question is like, well, why don't we all just pull the wool over our own eyes and think whatever the hell we want? And that way, even though you're getting you're on fire, you can just sit there and metaphysics your way into how this is the greatest thing in the world and everything's wonderful. Nothing's going wrong.
Well, I think honestly, the simple answer is that we know it doesn't work, Yeah. Everyone's believed that the glass door was open and walked into it at some point.
Yeah.
So it seems pretty easy to dismiss the idea that your beliefs have a causal relation to the world, at least in the sense of the things I believe will manifest into reality.
Just happen.
So we have to fall back on the Robert Anton Wilson grid idea, which is ultimately the same thing as Cartesian subjectivity, that there's this thing that has representations of the world. And you can even get a little more complicated here because, Wilson will tell you stuff like, what you do know and consider the universe outside is another part of your brain, which has made of its circuits a model which you identify with the universe outside of it.
And that's going back to that's mediation. That's just,
right.
Okay, there's a mind that doesn't actually touch the world, that there's this thing outside that is unknowable or incomprehensible, and all you've got are the representations in your head that can more or less correlate. But then we're still running into Emperor Napoleon or brains in a jar, or there's even like weirder, like this is new agey type, but this idea that there's like the collective conscious that we're all sort of partaking in, and that the universe exists as like the hodgepodge of all these different subjects that have like a line running through them and stuff like that. Or you can go on this idea that it's like, well, the guy that's Napoleon somehow knows on a base level that he's not really Napoleon, and
in his subconscious or unconscious, whatever.
You can just say anything, anybody believes anything on their unconscious, and then you can just say that like they agree with you.
Yeah, which is sort of the problem here. It's you build this theory and then you start dismissing it on the basis of like, oh, actually, that conscious mind that you have, there's another one that you don't have access to that believes all sorts of other things.
That's the more important one.
That's the more important one. Now, here's the thing. Earlier, Carol talks about mind and perception being one. Wilson, at various times, has lots of different things to say about it. He says, like, the mind and its contents are functionally the same. Both of these are really good attempts at what we're talking about, these sort of pragmatic, non-metaphysical ways of grasping at all this sort of stuff and being able to do magic. But neither of them really work because they just don't start far enough upstream, like we've been saying. It's always smuggling in this old French philosopher's ideas ultimately in some way or another. They hold on to this need for mediation and representation. And if you can't get beyond that, then we're still going to be stuck dealing with these same sorts of problems. At the meat of this argument, that's what we're talking about, that the reason magic as a whole has sort of come to
a dead end.
Yeah, it's come to a dead
Call
end.
it what it is.
There's nowhere to go from here because the only options you have, if you disagree with this, it seems to be, at least in the cultural consensus, in the way the movers and shakers and people talking about this, it's either go back to old understandings where it's like, no, angels are real, demons are real, the gods are real. These are all things that exist out there in some metaphysical spooky bugaboo land. Or we have to falter back onto, well, I guess that guy is Napoleon if he thinks so, at least in his universe. Or, or you have to fall back on this big nobodaddy called reality that you're just projecting stuff onto.
And that's a hard one. This is not a problem that we're going to necessarily solve in this talk, but it is pointing out the issues, the dead ends, the way that even the way that we can talk and discuss these sort of practices breaks down with this hard line of subjective experience. You can't really call anybody out on anything because like their subjective experience, their experience is their experience and you weren't there. And you know what? You probably unconsciously agree with me anyway and stuff like that. Sidebar, the unconscious is another example of this thing that did not exist. And then we developed methods and practices of dealing with it. And now it does. Now everybody takes for granted that it's like, oh yeah, I have a mind, but I also have bigger mind that I'm not even aware of.
Yeah, and possibly I have bigger mind that exists out in the clouds somewhere.
Yeah, I have the etheric consciousness field that surrounds me, and then that's you can hear that argument too. I don't really like entertaining these sort of big metaphysical concepts anymore because I just want to do my practices and try to get somewhere with them.
Yeah, well, and that's a really great segue into another big quote that I think we'll get out of the way real quick, and then I promise you we'll have less big quotes from here. The thing is, these are all of these sorts of things are what Rorty would find to be pointless questions. Rorty has a quote here. It says, all properties are the hypothesizations of webs of relationships. Whether you think these webs exist realistically as somehow there before the invention of predicates, or whether you think of them anti-realistically as coming into existence along with such inventions, is a matter of complete indifference. This is a paradigm of the kind of question which pragmatists dismiss as making no difference to practice, and therefore making no difference to court.
Now, to ground that a little bit, there's a pretty good example that sort of shows what we mean. Knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel is something very important to the thelemic background. But most occultists at least have a passing knowledge of this notion of making contact with this holy guardian angel, which will elucidate your true will, at least to a certain extent. You could even frame it as like, meeting your higher self or your spiritual guide and that sort of thing. There's a lot of ways of discussing it and a lot of different sort of dressings that people will put up on it. And it's because when Crowley was teaching people, they'd ask questions like that. They'd say like, well, is the angel a separate being? Is it part of me? Is it an unconscious drive? Is it my higher self? Is it this and that? And he would basically bounce around on what his answers were. He would sometimes tell one student one thing and then tell another student another thing, basically so they'd go about and argue about it. They'd meet up and say like, well, Crowley said that. No, he said that. And I think in a way it was to get them to not be hung up on what the answer was, because ultimately the answer didn't matter. What mattered was that they were doing the practices, they were following the methodologies that he was laying out to get to the experience. Attach no objective reality or philosophical validity. He's giving you the answer right there. It's like, well, if you do this, this will happen. So the question of what is the holy guardian angel doesn't matter. Go do Librasonic 15 times.
Yeah, because ultimately what is happening there is something that will be a phenomenal experience that you have while doing this, and your understanding will be informed by the practices that you do to engage with it, as opposed to thinking endlessly about what color hair the holy guardian angel has, or if it has hair, or so on and so forth. That's what we mean when we're saying makes no difference to court. It means that these are things that you are thinking about that will not change anything that you actually do. Radical idea. If something doesn't actually matter, thinking about it is kind of a waste of time. Yeah, and this is where we talk about like practice first orientation of like, all right, if this practice I'm doing is supposed to create this phenomena, if this action produces this result, then most of the things that you're doing, you're probably wasting a lot of time on. Yeah, because a lot of the questions you have and a lot of the things you're worried about and a lot of the explanations you're offering, and I understand we all have a very strong desire for things to make sense, and often we want them to make sense before we do them. But what a lot of this comes down to is that there are methods, there are techniques, and you do them. And the result of such, the understanding of these things will become self-evident when they are done to a certain level of proficiency. Right. Your belief about them, your idea about them, quite often has very little bearing, if any. So let's talk about belief a little bit again for a minute. So in terms of beliefs, particularly in terms of things like belief as a tool or belief as having an impact on the world, often these are statements that relate far more to things like, oh, I believe in democracy, rather than I believe in gravity. They're like endorsements. They're an affirmations of these sorts of things. Exactly. And even to the extent of like when people talk about, well, if you go around telling yourself, I'm smart enough, I'm good enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. They're like, well, I notice an actual effect. I definitely notice it compared to when I go around telling myself I'm rotten and I'm no good and people don't like me. And to that, they would say, well, that's belief as a tool. And it's like, well, kind of. It seems to do a lot more with the elasticity of human opinion. Like we have a belief about ourselves that is almost a belief in possibilities of ourselves, if that makes sense. Well, I would go to the fact that what the difference isn't that I'm going around thinking these things consciously and, making sure I repeat to myself, God, I am so attractive and people like me and I'm funny. It's that when I have those sorts of ideas in mind about myself, they will change the way that I actually behave in the world. Yeah, that too. But it is very much like a lot of the ideas and beliefs that we talk about is like the changeable beliefs. These are things that either, like you said, require a certain level of something that we would consider a practice. Repeating an affirmation to yourself or actively forcing a thought into your head is going to produce a tangible change in your behavior. But there's also the idea of we acknowledge the plurality of these things. We understand like a spectrum of like, well, people can be no good, rotten shits that people hate, and people can be fun and charming, and we can operate within these sort of things. What are the beliefs, like the hard line beliefs, like when we talk about belief in gravity, we don't, like that is an example of something that is implicit. If I pick up a book and I drop it before anybody even fully realizes what's going on, like if it's a loud enough thing, there will be a flinch. There will be people like the bracing. If you see a car that's about to smash, you sort of tense up. You understand implicitly physical knockabouts. You don't question. They're on a lower level than like the level of I'm thinking I'm smart and charming or something like that, or, God forbid, the complicated ones of thinking like, oh, well, there's like unconscious archetypes in my head that I can experience, or I can experience gods, like, and then we can relate those two ideas together, sort of thing. And the practices of repeating to yourself, gravity is not real, will do nothing. No, they're not going to help you. Absolutely nothing. Yeah. If you jump off a building saying, I'm going to fly, I'm going to fly, I'm going to fly, it's not going to fucking happen. And that's when people go into this like, well, unconsciously, I knew that wasn't going to happen. But if we're talking about belief as a tool, there's like, you are not going to get past certain things. Certain things are just implicit. Your belief is so hardwired because of background understanding. And background understandings come from the practices. And that means things like just the very nature of interacting as a body in the world. You, from the time you are a tiny baby busting your ass because you don't know how to walk yet, you understand things fall. You don't need you don't need to understand gravitons. You understand when you pick up the book, you let go of it, it is not going to fucking float. Gurdjieff talked about this as the automatic apparatus or what Carlos Castaneda called the assembly point. It's the idea that there's these sort of automatic apprehensions that we have about the world that we're just sort of initiated into from birth, and they become inseparable from our experience of the world. You've been busting your knees long enough to know that if you trip going down the stairs, you're going to fucking fall, and you don't have to consciously think about that. You don't have to believe that. That's not something that you even consider in your day-to-day world. It's just something that's there.
It exists before anything else. It is something that no one can even pinpoint, oh yeah, this is when I understood this. And you can take that with a bunch of stuff too. It's like nobody, like when did your little baby amnesiac brain really kick in of self-awareness? And at that moment, did you understand what a door was? You might have already. Nobody can really, you can't pinpoint when did a door appear as a door, and not just as like that object is a door, but you understand doors in a relational sense of like, this is the thing that you open to get out of a room. This is the thing that you open because it's hot and there's airflow. Even more subtle things of like when you're mad, you slam a door. It's not something you think about really. It's just an understanding of the world. It is an understanding of your relationship to all of these things that exist as a totality.
Right, because to understand what a door is, you also have to understand like what a house is, or what a car is, if it's a car door. That's another thing, is that you understand that doors are both on cars and on houses and on doll houses and on sheds. You understand that it's not something that can be understood outside of our practical dealings with it in a world. Because if you try it, go on, sit here and try to name all the properties of the door. Oh, it's like a wooden thing that's got hinges. Like, well, no, it's not, because it's also
metal
a car
doors.
Door. Yeah. Okay. So it's made out of some physical material that we're meant to go in and out of certain things. But the more you go into this, the more you realize that any definition you give it has to start including the whole social practices of everything, because also we understand doors when we say like the door to the mind or the door to the spirit world. All these are doors, and you understand them in these sorts of senses. Maybe some of them are metaphorical, perhaps, but then you also have to understand how metaphors work.
Again, they exist as a totality. They exist as a background understanding. And we're not talking like somewhere in an unconscious mind that is like, oh, this just holds on to everything you've ever experienced, or even like an unconscious understanding that we all partake in, because there are cultures that could theoretically exist without doors. Certainly there are cultures that exist without concepts of doors that would jive with our concept of doors. It's something that you are brought into from birth, and it develops, and it goes out and out and out and out and out. But it always exists as a foregone, like this is what Heidegger, take a drink, Heidegger described as the thrownness of being, as in we are already existent in a world, and that world, like I said, is a totality. It is one of historical context. It is one of social context. It is one of the physicality of the human body that has to exist in a certain way, and you can't really get out of it in most senses.
Okay, what that means is the inherent inseparability of the human being with all of its history, with all its other beings, with the entirety of all possibilities, right here, right now. This is all an attempt to do what Wilson and Carroll have been attempting to do. It's this blurring of these distinctions, like my mind in the external world, or will and perception, or external and internal, but it's trying to do so in a way that upends all the baggage of thinking about the mind, which, you understand why we've gone off about the mind more than enough at this point. To have a world in like the Heideggerian sense, at least for the main interpreter of Heidegger that we've been leaning on, Bert Dreyfus. Dreyfus thinks that to have a world is to have a history, a culture, shared practices, all the things that we already talked about. This shared background is what we call our understanding of being. It's what constitutes what and how things exist. Dreyfus's big claim to fame was a criticism of AI, that AI could never become intelligent because it's based on the idea of the Cartesian mind. It's this thing that has representations. It's, and for now, it's like large language models where it's,
if you just feed enough text to something, like somehow it's going to wake up and just be sentient and be able to talk and converse and understand, rather than just what we're dealing with now, which is something that just understands patterns and rules. you've given me enough material that I can reproduce that something that is a simulacrum of this material. But there's no, it's the Chinese box problem. There's no understanding of it. It's just doing the thing.
Right, because as we're trying to lay out to you, our contention, Bert's contention, is that understanding like that, the difference between knowing that and knowing how, I guess, if you want to put it that way, is what makes us intelligent. Intelligence is being able to exist and cope with a world skillfully. That's what separates us. That's how we get out of this problem of like, well, how do I know that this door that exists externally doesn't have any real correspondence to the things I'm doing? It's like, well, because the only reason I could possibly have knowledge of how a door works is if there was a door for me to have practices to deal with.
Well, really, the only way that we can have an understanding is that we are able to interact with it.
Right.
We are able to have, like you said, practices, ways of dealing with what is there. And this is like this is where the language issue of like, talking about an external world, and it's like there isn't really an external world because it's inseparable from you, and not just you, everything else, everybody else.
Right. And this is you've all heard the phrase the map is not the territory. Obviously, we're trying to go a step further because now the map is not even a map.
Yeah. There's not a we are no longer using a map to navigate the world. We are walking the trails that we have walked our entire life.
Yeah. The world is its own model is what Bert used to say. And I think that's kind of the bag we're trying to get at. The world doesn't appear the way it does because we have these sort of ways of conceiving of it or ways of gathering information, putting it into a model. It's because we are skillfully and practically engaged with it at all times and have never not been. From the ground up, our world is how we deal with it, and we are the world itself.
And it's just, the problem is it turns into a bit of like, things are the way they are. And that sounds silly, but it's sort of like, in a, almost there's like a 3 lines of logic of like, almost like just seeing reality for what it is, And it sound like I said, it does sound a little silly, but it's hopefully we're employing enough of the of at least pointing out the issues of the mind and representation, and saying like, well, okay, if I guess if you believe in a mind that is separate from all of this, then you could just be a brain in a jar, and that's it. But instead, it's taking the step and acknowledging it's like, well, for me to even have the conceptions that I do, it's because I have to be interacting with this. I have to already be a part of the thing that I'm dealing with.
Right. It's that all of these sorts of theoretical ideas, these conceptual things, these models that we do create in certain ways are built upon something far more primary and necessary to existence itself. Right. And the controversial part of this for us, I think, is that it sort of implies that it's not that we have these separate ways of conceiving of the world that are all sheen on top of something, lenses that we look at the same thing through. It's that all of those things are here right now in this world existing with us. And if we have the necessary skills and practices for dealing with them, we have access to them. A great example that co-host thought of is a mechanic, right?
Oh, yes. Mechanics are fascinating people if you've ever spent time around them. You ever taken your car to somebody who really understood machines, understood engines, and they tell you like, all right, turn the key, crank it, and they know by the sound. And like sometimes it's obvious, like we all know like dut dut dut, okay, your battery's probably dead. But there's very subtle ways in which like I'm listening to this engine and I can tell you what the problem is by the sound. Now here's the thing. You are hearing the same sound. This mechanic doesn't have like a special ear. He doesn't have like special perception that you are not privy to. What he has is skill. He has a skillful means of experiencing this phenomena. There is a world, what we call it a lowercase world, I guess. But there is the world of the mechanic. There is the understanding of the mechanic that this skill, these ways of dealing with this machine, this knowledge of the machine from this firsthand interaction with it, where the sound now reveals itself as something very different than what you hear because he has the skills and you do not.
Yeah. Think about when you first got into Kabbalah, maybe, or maybe tarot, something like that. How through the act of being able to engage with that, you started to make connections to things. You started being able to like catalog the world in certain ways. It's not because anything new appeared there. It's because you have a way of dealing with the world that was able to, you're like, all right, now I can see how Mars connects to Aries, connects to the color red, that sort of thing. It's because we, in a certain sense, it is a big theoretical apparatus, but what really makes it work is that you have practices to be able to engage with these sorts of things and make them make sense, make them intelligible and fit into a world. And, like you said, there's the world of the mechanic. There's the world of the Kabbalist. There's, the world of the occult in general. But there's also like the world of the woodworker or the marble sculptor who, Michelangelo was the guy who said, I saw the angel in the block and I sought to free him. Whereas most of us just look at a
big old slab of marble. It's a big old rock.
Yeah, it's a big old rock. But
I'm going to lick it.
But the skilled craftsman has ways of looking at the materials he's working with and can see what they would be good for, or can see how they're to be affected in certain ways through these different practices and application. There exist these, these smaller worlds that I think we're trying to show you as an example of how this bigger world that you exist in this case, like the Western world, as it were. It's because that's ultimately what we're talking about. Descartes is the founder of like the Western world's paradigm, as it were, the scientific, materialistic world that has pretty much dominated the entire globe at this point.
Absolutely. There's a quote, I think, from Sheldon Kopp that it's like, there's nothing in the world that isn't obvious to the rest of us. But I the one caveat, it's like there's nothing in the world that isn't obvious to the rest of us for anyone who has the skills to see it.
Yeah, all you need is just a little bit of know-how. And that's sort of what Wilson's trying to get at when he says things like the brain and its contents are functionally the same. It's freeing it of this sort of mental subjective character we have and putting it back into the world where we all are dealing with things and dealing with each other.
I guess in a way, what you could say that it's like all of the phenomena that is there to be experienced is already here. If you talk about somebody talking about like they talked to God or they saw the image of the great god Pan, it's like the phenomena that they are talking about is something that is just as available to anyone. It's just, do you have the practices that would allow this thing to be revealed to you? Do you have the practical application to come to terms with it?
Right. And that's not something new in and of itself either, because we talked about Wilson in a somewhat negative light, but again, we're fucking chaots, we're Discordians, we read Illuminatus, we love this man. He's
absolutely.
He's one of our favorites. He's right about most things. One of his biggest criticisms, he put it at the beginning of Undoing Yourself by Chris Hyatt. He was just talking about how he could tell the people who just read the book and the people who actually did the practices.
There was a pronounced difference. There was like, it had the reading the book on magic is going to do very little for you other than like give you kooky things to talk about. What will radically upend your ideas about the world will be doing something.
Right. There we go. We're going to ditch representations. We're going to ditch the mind. We're going to get rid of all that sort of stuff. And instead, we're going to focus on this sort of background understanding. Okay, let's go back to the gravity example, right? We all understand that if I'm throwing a baseball at your head, you're about to get hit with a baseball, and it's very hard for you to override that. You can. It's possible.
Sort of.
Yeah, sort of.
But the book example, I guess, it's like, what situations could you find yourself in where you could wholeheartedly understand and like not just believe, like I believe you're gonna float, but like in what ways could you let go of a book and then have the complete expectation and understanding that it is going to actually just float off or not, or at least not fall to the ground? You could be in like a low gravity environment, but that's once again, I understand that we all, even if we don't have the firsthand experience of it, we have at least seen what low gravity looks like, and we understand enough of it and we can understand the concept of like if something's dropping out from under you, like, it has the appearance of like that sort of thing.
Well, even so, you put astronauts up in there and they have to adjust to that. They have to get used to the fact that they're now in a different
and then
environment.
when they come back down,
and then when they come back down, they're dropping glasses because like, oh yeah, I forgot, I can't just let go of things.
So that relies on a physical, practical understanding of a world that you're of the world as you're in it currently. There's ones that are a little sadder, I suppose. Like if you're having like a stroke or like brain damage or something horrible has happened to the physical apparatus of that which you use to be in the world,
right?
Then maybe that can happen. Take a bunch of drugs.
Yeah, take a bunch of drugs, which is again inducing a sort of change in the actual world inside your own physical being.
Yeah, so it's like those are all kind of out, but it's like even then the argument is still sort of like you thought it, but it's still probably gonna fall, Dreaming would be a good example where it's like you can have dreams where we're now like reappropriating the way in which we are, like that sort of, like I said, that automatic apprehension of phenomena operates very differently in something like dreaming. But there's also in a strange way that sort of reappropriation thing is a good example, because like lucid dreaming, now you're an active participant in this dream logic that's sort of up where if you have a lucid dream, just about anything can happen. There's a good example of a more subtle thing where who gave the paddle hands thing.
I can't remember their name. I'll put their name in right here.
Yeah, but they use the example of like the body itself it has this sort of reappropriation to know the world. If you're in a dark room, right, your hands now take on a completely different context. They are no longer the things for holding cans of beer or stroking your hair. Because your eyes no longer function the way that they need to. They now take on the character of these paddles that you orient yourself, and your understanding of the world and objects that are in it don't necessarily change, but your way of experiencing them has become totally different because now you're feeling around in the dark, fumbling and understanding what you're touching and feeling as like this is now how you navigate the world.
Right, because ultimately things like believing in gravity are not these sort of like beliefs in our head. They're not these representations. They're not these concepts. They're
lived experience.
Yeah, they're embodied.
Yeah.
They're the practical engagement with the world around you. They are in a way completely arbitrary, much in the way that Carol says the symbolic cultural baggage of magical practices is. But given that every single one of us is a human being, and we all have a remarkable similarity, especially considering just how long the human species has existed, it's pretty universal to us. What we mean by this is that we all exist in the world, that we're inseparable from it. It already has history. It already has cultures. We all exist in a gravity well. We basically all have bilateral symmetry and a front-facing top-down orientation. Even when we don't share things like limbs or the ability to see or the ability to hear, we have different sort of neurological makeups, as it were, physical strength. All of these things are overwhelmingly outweighed by the similarities of our bodies.
Which when we were discussing earlier the primacy of practice of explaining the that first pithy quote of the idea that ultimately it is our already active engagement with the world and our ways of dealing with it which shape our understanding of the world. When we talk about the body as the locus, meaning the center of all magical practices, is that everything we do is centered in this embodiment that we are in. It's literally the way that we use our bodies and the things about us as affordances, as equipment, as things to do things. This is the only game in town. Outside, you can't explain to me a single magical practice that doesn't ultimately involve that. Even like we're talking like astral projection or like lucid dreaming and stuff like that. Like these are all things that do require embodiment. They require, like, even if it's sitting there meditating where you're trying to almost distance yourself from it, it's the act of in a way, I guess, a poor metaphor, of switching off a lot of these sensory apparatus to experience things that are not readily available
but you're still here. You know, it's not like when someone goes to sleep, they just blink out of existence. And even all the Buddhas and the saints that have gone and had these crazy, outrageous experiences that were quote unquote outside their body, they are only able to be articulated and understood within the human context.
Right. It's not through this theoretical understanding of these experiences. It's through actually living with, coping with, and quite often we can't even articulate all of this properly, but it's the whole context of this sort of form of life, this way of being that we have. Even stuff like reading the tarot, it relies on, what was that 75-cent word that you used? The comportment of the body, right?
Exactly.
The presence of the body there, shuffling the cards, dealing them out, looking at them and ruminating on them. These are all, everything is embodiment. And it's because, like I said, it's the only game in town, and it's inseparable from all of the other phenomena. And I know that there are people that are going to want to argue this. I know there are people that are going to be like, no. I experienced the complete dissolution of everything I was, and I still had this thing that was like the observer that could do it. And it's like, no, well, who's talking to me right now? What's that story about the guy that goes to his rabbi with his crisis of faith and says like, well, I learned logic at the university and now I can explain anything away. And he's like, could you argue you don't have a nose? And he's like, absolutely. And he punches him. He's like, what hurts? You know, there is an inescapableness, because in a great it's Heideggerian non-dualism. It's the inseparability of being from the world, because it's one thing simultaneously.
Yeah.
Not just you and the world, it's just the world. And like I said, like all the phenomena to be experienced and everybody in it.
All right, we're going to give you the final big quote of this. It's one that we've talked about on the show before, but I feel like it has a special place here. Okay, so this is Crowley giving his far less quoted other definition of magic. Magic is the study and the use of those forms of energy which are A, subtler than the ordinary physical mechanical types, B, accessible only to those who are, in one sense or another, initiates. I fear this may sound rather obscurum pure obscuris, but this is one of these cases. We are likely to encounter many such in the course of our researches, in which we understand quite well enough for all practical purposes what we mean, but which elude us more and more successfully the more accurately we struggle to define their import. And this is our final little pithy thing. This is the normative basis for magic. This is the way magic can be defined on the basis of our normative understandings, our normal stances, and our normative attitudes towards the practices of it.
It is the way that we can actually talk about these things. It is the way that we can actually all understand these things, that when someone says divination, you know what they mean. When they say enchantment, when they say invocation, we understand these conceptually because we have a shared normative understanding of them. So when somebody tries to tell you that every act is an act of magic because it's change in conformity with will, you can bust out this quote and explain to them how that is not a helpful stance to take for the purposes of talking about spooky woo-woo nonsense.
Yep.
There's no, like, for real, there's like, these are the reason that we run into so many hurdles when we talk about things. A lot of it does fall back on a almost a staunch refusal to talk about magic in terms of magic. It's we want to turn everything into an act of magic. We want to talk about magic is, you don't do magic, you are magic. I hate when people fucking say that. I really do, because it doesn't mean anything. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It doesn't mean anything useful for conversation. It doesn't mean anything important. And it doesn't mean anything pertinent to the discussion. I'll say it like that. But in the same way that we run into hurdles because we're all squabbling about definitions, it's because our normative standards have broken down. And I'm saying like everybody's got to agree on what every definition and word means. There's always going to be room to squabble. But if I have to play 45 minutes of a definition game before we can talk about something, I'm probably just not going to talk about it.
Well, here's the real issue, right? It's because this is a very long way of making a simple point that most of us probably were in agreement on, even if co-host and I don't necessarily think you're agreeing with us for the right reasons. That if we can just be practical and talk about practices in a very concrete way, that we'll probably be better off. We had to do that because so much of what you specifically the listener, have learned about occultism has been exactly the sort of stuff we're telling you is completely pointless. You've been learning large, complex metaphysical systems, intricate ways about how reality is, and all of these sorts of things.
And you've been reading that dang Grant Morrison, and you're like, well, everything's like a 5-dimensional hypercube, and we got to project us across the super sphere. And nobody cared. No one's got time for this shit.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
What is the practice? What happened?
And so often chaots are probably the guiltiest of this because we're really big on paradigms. And what most people in contemporary chaos magic seem to think a paradigm is just a new fancy metaphysical theory that you can operate under.
Rather than, what was it? Kuhn?
Right, yeah, Kuhn, where it's a large transformation in what is understood to be. And all of that has to come out through change in practices. So the issue is that if we want to get to a point where we can talk about what actually changes our practices, what changes the way the world appears to us, we have to get beyond the idea of belief, as it were. We can't rest on our laurels and say that, okay, all it takes is that I come up with a different theory and then I see if it actually works better for me or not. Because coming up with new theories that don't actually change any of the things that you're doing is the problem. If you develop a new magical theory that doesn't actually change how you're doing anything, it's at best a fun mental exercise to be like, okay, I have a cool explanation here, but it's not doing anything. If it doesn't change the very basic practices of stuff like, how do I invoke a thing? How do I perform a sigil? How do I do this? How do I do that? How do I make the needle move? Then this is a waste of time.
And real quick, because we have heard arguments for people saying that like this is not a fair assessment of the idea of belief as a tool. And I'm going to fall back on like Peter Carroll as like a big example, where there's a notable exercise where he says like take a 6-sided dice and then try to live in this paradigm for like a week or something like that. And this idea that you can just arbitrarily go like, all right, I'm a polytheist now, or I'm this and that. And it's like, these are not the ways that you actually go about these things. At best, what we end up with is like this supposed meta paradigm, which is just a bigger cup to try to put all of the other cups in. And you're not really getting out of a paradigm at that point. You're just trying, you're finding a clever workaround to try to talk yourself into saying you believe something. You don't believe in them the way that you believe in the meta paradigm. You don't believe in them the way that you believe in gravity. You're just it's a mental workaround to try on new clothes, and that's fine. I'm not criticizing saying like, all right, I'm going to work with this pantheon of gods, and now I'm going to drop that and work in this and stuff like that. But it's really understanding what you're actually doing, rather than just falling back on like, oh, well, I'll change my beliefs and belief is a tool and I can just think whatever I want. Mostly because you're doing yourself a disservice by not actually seeing what you're operating with. And then also, as we said, most of these ideas of like, okay, I believe in like a physical pantheon of gods that are sitting on a cloud somewhere, versus these are, I have a collective of archetypes that are in my unconscious that I can call up. Most of these don't make a difference to what you're actually doing. Your process of invocation is going to more or less be the same. You're just going to have a slightly different terminology for how you're going to try to explain it.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't need to even, like I said, not even maybe you don't need to. You don't need to do that.
Yeah.
It's not helping you. Yeah. I guarantee you it isn't helping you.
In the same way Crowley said, we all kind of know what we mean when we say magic, but the more we try to define it, we get jammed up. The more you attempt to theorize and systematize what are ultimately very simple bodily practices that we call magic and occultism, the more we lose sight of what we're actually doing. All we need is to get back to looking at our experiences and communicating them in ways that can bracket out a lot of the nonsense, which, again, it's not something we're against. It's fun. It's fun and interesting and at times useful to have big metaphysical theories. What they seem to be really bad at is giving us practical ways to talk about magic that don't require a whole lot of specialized jargon. And they seem to be pretty lackluster at affecting the ways we actually go about these things, because it doesn't matter whether or not I have like the psychological model of magic or if I have like the spirit model of magic. I seem to have to invoke things the same way, which is by speaking or bringing about symbolic representations that I've created, that sort of thing. All of this seems to kind of hinge more on better ways of explaining things, and I don't think that any of them do. Because what seems to explain them is that when I can tell you what I did and then what happened, as opposed to anything else.
That's the crux of the argument. Very rarely, I can count the people on one hand who their great metaphysical underpinnings led them to actually new and novel ways of practicing magic. And I would also argue that they probably didn't need the metaphysics to do something new and novel. And I understand there's nothing new under the sun. A lot of times you'll think you found something really cool, and it's like, oh no, these people were doing that, or like, oh no, it's just kind of like a different way of doing this thing. But chaos magic was a big step forward in how we as a culture, like as in like the whole of the Western tradition of magic, approached occultism. It really was, and it's a good thing. And if we want to keep moving forward, we might, like I said, we might have to go upstream and start challenging some of these big tentpole ideas that maybe we weren't even aware of.
Yeah, I mean, it's what chaos magic was about, and it might involve having to say that a lot of things that we've taken for granted were unnecessary at best. Yeah. So now that nobody is listening, if you've skipped to the end of the episode and just want to know a quick summary of what we were talking about, ultimately we have the three ideas that we talked about at the beginning. We have the primacy of practice, the way in which our practices are the fundamental things that we can work with and how they actually reveal the world around us. The body as the locus of magical practice, the way in which our embodied existence is what allows us to engage in magical practice, and it's always on the basis of the body. And the normative understanding of magic, how magic itself is understood in our world without overarching metaphysical, theoretical ideas, but rather on our simple, pragmatic involvement with the world.
So it takes a lot of meandering and a lot of wordy talk to get there, but it's like I said, it's a very, very simple idea. Focus on what you're doing and what's happening, and that the practices that you engage with will reveal a world to you. With a certain level of proficiency in these practices, the world that is being revealed will be self-evident. It will be as obvious as your understanding of how a door works and what a door is, the greater context in which it all exists. You don't have to sit there and squabble about it. You don't have to sit there and think up explanations. Just if you keep working with it, things will make sense.
So if you listen to all of this and you thought, like, this is really not my scene, I'd like to give you just a little story to end this on. There's a guy named Petru Culiano. He wrote a lot of books. He was a student of Eliade. But I got the privilege of listening to a guy named Edward Kantarian give a talk on one of his books on Gnosticism. And this guy gave a whole talk talking about all these ideas, everything that Culiano said. And, it lays it out pretty well, and you're like, wow, this is kind of a cool idea. And then he spends like the last 10 minutes of it just destroying this whole book, being like, this is complete nonsense. He doesn't know what he's actually talking about here. And then he asks, well, what do we have left then? And he says, I think that Culiano has just given us yet another great myth for us to work with and make sense of the world in the various traditions and practices that we have. He doesn't say it in quite those terms, but that's what he's saying. So at the very least, I think that's what we're giving you here. We're giving you, if nothing else, a new, interesting way that you could possibly try and deal with chaos magic. And who knows, maybe it really will be the big step forward that co-host and I think it could be.
Potentially. We do have to get somewhere else. We can't stay here. You can't go back and you can't stand still. Thunder don't get you, then the lightning will. Whatever the fuck. Like, we can't stay here because, like, as we're already pointing out,
stagnated since essentially Carol, right? Like,
yeah,
there have been developments, but not major ones. I mean,
I don't know if it's fair to say it's stagnated since Carol, but it's like, 50 years out. We've definitely stagnated as it's become more commonplace and more widely accepted. And as we mentioned with the whole folk coyote comment, it's like these are ideas that are everywhere now. It, like, not just chaos magic circles. It permeates the whole of occultism, which means that it's time to go somewhere else. It's time to find it's time to figure out how the hell you're going to move forward. And if that means, like I said, hopefully we pinned ourselves to the right horse here of like this sort of practice first, deal with the rest later kind of approach. It at least might give us a better ground to discuss it, because if I have to hear one more person say unverified personal gnosis, I think I'm going to scream.
I guess now would be the time for the palate cleanser, wouldn't it?
Boy. Yeah, I guess so.
Well, how goes the work?
At the very start of Chaos Magic News, right, I mentioned I was doing Liber K. I'm done. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not done, but it's like I'm on the high magic section, which is the whole point of like that's empty-handed magic and all of this, like, the no other symbol system yet save reality itself, and these are all great ways. And I think ultimately my problem is I think Carol doesn't know what he's fucking talking about.
Not like we didn't just give a whole talk on that.
Yeah, it's like I've heard people talk about like empty-handed magic, and I've asked the Discord their opinions. I want to know what people think that it means, and like what magic sans any sort of symbolic relationship or cultural dressings or whatever. And it talks about like, everything you've learned going in. And like I said, this is not my first time going through the whole thing, but I'm at a very different place now. But the whole idea is that it's like, well, if you do all of the other sets, you should know these tricks and these like little shorthands to really get there. I can't tell you anything about it, but you just know it. And I've got a lot of ideas pinging around in my head because I'm in a very different place than the last time I did this. It's a hard one. It's something that I think in a way it is the problem of, like we said with this talk, it's like if practices are the ultimate building block for how the world reveals itself and how you understand it, what does a practice look like that isn't a practice that you picked up from somewhere else, or even like a practice that you cobbled together through looking at other techniques and methods and stuff like that? It's a head scratcher, but in my mind, I'm kind of done. But there is this sort of grace period of like, okay, you got to. I haven't looked at my mountain of tarot decks. I don't have anything on my altar right now. It is very much like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's just sit with this for a while, see how these things reveal themselves. But like I said, it's that part of that problem is like no symbol system save reality itself. It's like, well, all the symbols are part of reality. It's all right here, dude. It's it's that problem. It's like, no, the totality of reality involves all of these other things. Yeah, it's a head scratcher. I think part of the problem is that it's like what Carol is actually pointing at is like he wants like spontaneous psychic phenomena where like you point your finger at somebody and their head explodes. And I just like I don't think that's the thing.
I'll throw one paraphrase at you because I can't be asked to read another fucking quote all this time after all of that. Ugh. But Merleau-Ponty had something about how the body has its own symbolism, its own corporeality to it. I think, at least for me, that's what Carol is ultimately trying to get to. And it's probably why we just gave you a whole talk about why what's important is the fact that you're an embodied being in a world and such. That there is a certain way in which reality, the body, the world all exist in a relation and have a certain, what we would call maybe symbolism, quote unquote.
Yeah. I have also read Don Juan. It's okay. I got it.
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, well, I'll give you the fun one. It was the feast of Saint Cosmas and Damien yesterday.
Ooh, neat.
Yeah, if you don't know them, look them up. They're interesting saints. They get syncretized in a lot of things in, voodoo and hoodoo and who knew. But I did something last night for that just because those are important figures in my life. And, it was... I never like saying it was a good time because it makes it sound like, oh yeah, all I did was attempt a spiritual communication with dead saints. You're like, oh yeah, it was fun. It was fine. It sounds, so trite and stuff, but it was interesting. It was an interesting experience, especially because I haven't done anything big and super meaningful in the last, since Chaturthi ended, really. Normally I go really hard on, Buddhist ideas because it feels like a natural progression to be like, all right, I was a Hindu for a week and a half and now I'm going to go be a Buddhist. It's sort of against my own advice there now, though. You know what I mean? Like, you can see why I probably didn't do it this year because we've been kicking around that whole thing since last year, really.
You can't just try on shoes.
Yeah, you can't. So, yeah, but I did that because it felt important and, I never miss an opportunity for a feast.
Michael misses tomorrow.
Oh, Michael misses tomorrow. High satanic holiday.
Oh, God. If you haven't watched the guide to satanic cults for law enforcement video we put up, go watch it. It's such a...
It's wow, it's a trip.
It's something.
All right. Well, with that...
This has been Chaos Magic News, the only occult podcast that is probably alienating the people that would actually want to listen to it. If you, too, don't think we know what the fuck we're talking about, you can come yell at us at chaosmagicnews.com, where we'll have more links to the pod, links to our interview series, the occasional article, more probably excerpts from the upcoming book, if we're lucky.
We'll see.
And all that good stuff. We might even put the actual like original version of the lecture up or something like that. That might be good for you guys. If you do really want to yell at us and be like, you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about, you're probably better off checking out our Discord or our social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Chaos Magic News. We're on Blue Sky at CMN Pod because somebody got Chaos Magic News. God, we really, really got to work on that. And perhaps you heard all of this and were like, you know what? I actually dig what you guys are doing. How can I support you? Well, for just 5 simoleons a month, you can be part of our Patreon, where you will get access to bonus content. We're doing like watch along react things now that you can see the full unedited versions on the Patreon. And then we've also got like we're looking for the new thing to do after we finished up the Occult Iceberg, and we'll be doing part of a reading of the Zoetic Grimoire because we said we were going to do it, so we got to do it. But yeah, you'll get access to that, and also you'll get your name read right here.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Local. Thank you, Cios93. Thank you, Pope Loki Satyr the 23rd, LLC. Thank you, Supremely. Thank you, Coco. Thank you, Alexander. Thank you, Acolyte 1 of the Ice Magic Meditation Society. Thank you, Cursed T. Thank you, Fyodor Krasny. Thank you, Venus Christ. Thank you, Tent Athena. Thank you, Bearded Vegan. Thank you, Tremov. Thank you, Tangy Darling. Thank you, DD Destruction. Thank you, Toziel Obscurus. Thank you, Lavender Ghost. Thank you, Tommy Kelly. Thank you, Double Dearid. Thank you, Clodius. Thank you, Cyrenix Flux. Thank you, Eric the Wizard. Thank you, Marcio Mendoza. Thank you, Archaic. Thank you, Sneaky Llama. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Melius. Thank you, Coffin Star Emoji. Thank you, Eli Cash. Thank you, Debbie McPherson. Thank you, Rowan of Birch Groves. And thank you, me. And thank everyone who didn't get thanked last episode. My bad.
the fact that we do have so many lovely people that love and support what we do means the world. It's you really do help us keep going. And, you know, fact is, you guys pay to keep the show running now for like all the site hosting and everything else. And it also gives us the opportunity to put more money into, you know, getting our hands on certain things that we can do for content for the show and stuff like that, and paying for subscriptions so that the editing process can go smoother. So it's like it's not like we're taking the money and like just, you know, buying pretzel nuggets and beer with it. So like to know like that you guys are keeping us from going in the hole on this really does mean a lot.
Yeah, and just honestly, every single one of you, you know we love you. You let us do this, and it will have been, by the time this episode comes out, almost 3 years of CMN.
Almost 3 years and 60 episodes, and then when you count all the bonuses and stuff, we're probably at almost 100 right now. And look out for the next special where we're going to be doing the first of the Typhonian trilogies and talking about Kenneth Grant.
Yeah, that's going to be the next one, so get excited.
Yeah, we'll see you guys then. Do you want the last word?
Heidegger. All right, that's 4 shots.
Oh, boy.
All right, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
You'll never find me. You'll never find me.
You'll
I'm
never
gonna find you, you little fuck.